Defining Duke is brought to you by Raycon. There's no doubt that music is a complement to every single thing in our lives, no matter how menial it may be. And with things approaching normalcy, you may be like me and saying, I don't want to socialize with people. I want to be alone. And that's where nature walks are great, where I pop in my Raycons and listen to the Octopath Traveler soundtrack. And the new everyday earbuds look, feel, and sound better than ever, especially with the new, pure, balanced, and bass mode profiles. Everything sounds its best. And they start at just half the price of other premium audio brands, but sound just as good. So it's time for you to create your own soundtrack. With Raycon, right now, Defining Duke listeners can get 15% off their Raycon order at buyraycon.com/Duke. That's buyraycon.com/Duke to save 15% on Raycons. buyraycon.com/Duke. Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and welcome to episode 41 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. As always, I'm joined by the Iron Lord himself, Lord Cognito.
Yo, Maddie, what's going on? Fresh cut. The legend is in the building. I'm feeling very energized. Let's do it, man.
Absolutely. And as always, not really as always, I apologize. We are joined with a special guest from IGN, Ryan McCaffrey. Ryan, thank you so much for being here today.
Gentlemen, it is a pleasure, although I'm going to call you out. I'm just appearing. I've been on the show for 2 seconds. I'm on the Defining Duke podcast, and I do not see a single Duke controller in the shot in either one of you. I came prepared.
This is painful.
Okay? I came prepared for this podcast because, you know, I'm a master of proper preparation.
I was going to say, clearly we're not running this show right at this point.
Bro, we just got OG checked by the OG.
I'm just putting it out there. It's like,
He's right. Oh, it's an oversight that has to be corrected. We cannot be the Dukes with no Duke controller. He is absolutely right.
Need to verify here. Is it okay if we have the Hyperkin? Do we need the OG Duke?
No, I mean, I'm cheating. This is the Hyperkin. I don't even know if I still have an original.
Is that a display piece, or do you use that?
No, this is real. I mean, this one works.
I'm saying, do you actually use it when you play? Or
I never liked it, honestly.
Oh no,
it's got this cult status, but no, I was a controller S guy. It just felt.
I was too.
You got to reach so far up to get to the black and white buttons on the Duke, whereas they're on the they're on the bottom. They're below the face buttons on the controller S. So I think the controller S was, certainly a 10 times better of a controller. I totally get the legend of the Duke, but it's for display only. You
have to wonder when they were testing the controller whose hands they were testing it on. Because I was a little kid when I used the Duke for the first time, and I'm just like,
Otis
anyone under like 40, that just went right over their heads.
Yeah, we here, brother. We here. We're in pocket. Good NBA player,
and known for having like the biggest hands in the league. Like the basketball is like a tennis ball in that dude's hands.
Absolutely, brother.
Well, we got a great episode ahead of us. A lot of exciting news. I was telling Cog originally, I was like, I don't know, should we save Ryan for another week? I'm feeling like news is slow, and Cog, he pumped the brakes on me.
I got you. Hold the line. Great news week. Perfect timing. Even some breaking stuff from Ryan that we'll get to.
Yes, absolutely. And so we're going to hustle our way there.
Get it.
But before we begin, we just want to let everyone know we got Defining Duke Ultimate episode 37 up right now. It was a technical disaster, so there is only the audio version. We apologize for that. But on our end, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. That is no exaggeration. But for those who are interested, it is a episode on our backwards compatible wish list for Xbox with the anniversary approaching. We're hoping that maybe they do something there to celebrate the history of Xbox, fingers crossed. And so we made a list of each of our top 3 and then some honorable mentions. And we want to hear from you on that. So go ahead, give it a listen. Leave us some comments on what you want to see added to Back Compat. Also, as always, early access for the show goes live on Thursdays over on patreon.com/laststandmedia. Free feeds everywhere else on Sunday. With that, we have a lot more write-ins to go into in this episode, more than we ever had in a previous episode, because a lot of you responded in kind to our discussion at the beginning of episode 40 of Defining Duke. So thank you all so much for writing in excess and giving us a lot of options. I wanted to reward the audience for that. First one is a correction from David Ponce. Just a minor correction. Last episode, you were talking about how FPS boost should eventually impact the older Elder Scrolls games and that they needed to boost resolution too. However, Oblivion already runs at 4K, as does Morrowind. The latter even runs at 60 frames. Fallout 3 is also in 4K. The odd one out is New Vegas, which still runs at an original resolution and frame rate from the 360. I find that so weird. It's my fault, by the way. I did forget this entirely. Funny enough, I even mentioned it in a video, but New Vegas being the odd one out is a little bit of an eyebrow raiser to me, especially with how long Obsidian's been in the family compared to Bethesda. But
it's true. That is true.
I digress. We were incorrect last episode, so thank you so much, David, for writing in, keeping us sharp.
Absolutely.
Next one comes from Brandon Breland. Hey, Maddie and Lord Cog. Before I submit my question, I just wanted to give you a huge compliment to the show. I've been listening since episode 0, and ever since Cog joined the show, I feel like the energy has been lifted greatly. I would agree. You both have awesome chemistry together, and y'all are rocking it. Anyways, on to my question. This has been a point of debate on sacred symbols, so I had to have the Duke's answer as well. What are your guys' thoughts on the bidet? Is it unnecessary and essential? No opinion whatsoever? The Dukes in the audience have to know. All right, we have to answer Brandon's question in kind. Cog.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, brother.
Like I said, no. Shout out to Colin. Me and him share very similar thought processes here as far as the bidet. I know Dustin at the Last Stand Media physical event. He's a big fan of it. He tried to get Colin to use it when he visited his home. Colin refused based on his concerns with cleanliness and the way
why the refusal?
Yes, and I understand the logic. That's all I'm saying. But shout out to my bidet users. God bless. Do your thing. God, I'm just more of a conventional guy. Just conventional. That's all.
We'll talk about that in a moment. We want to round things out. Let's get Ryan's take on bidets, because we need everyone's thoughts represented here before we have a real true discussion on this.
Is this why you wanted me on? Was to talk about bidets? No, it's
of course.
I have to say I've never been asked this question before. So, and on the many podcasts I've done over the years. So, shout out to you guys for that. I will say I am open to the idea. I've heard a lot of great things from a lot of people in my life, but I will say I've actually never tried it because I've never encountered one. Maybe I don't hang with wealthy enough people. I don't know, but I've never encountered one, so I've never had the opportunity to take a spritz.
So, so we have one person who's never encountered it before. We have one who's Cog. You're showing some ignorance here, man.
Yeah. I've encountered it though. I've encountered.
Have you said no to? Have you not even tried it?
I'm not doing that.
Really? Is it like the sogginess of it all? Like, do you worry you'll just be wet back there for a while?
It just doesn't. I don't know. It just doesn't click with me for some reason. And maybe it is ignorance. Maybe I just need to try it, and then before I can comment and refuse it, you know what I'm saying? But you educate me. You seem to be the bidet master here.
Well, see, I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't even say that because what's interesting is I'm still an adopter of it. When I'm at my girlfriend's house, she has a bidet there. Her parents' house, there's a bidet there. At my house, we've been trying to install one, but the way the water pipes are set up, it's just not looking likely at the end of the day. So I've been trying to, for 3 years now, work this bidet into my household. I just can't get the job done. It's impossible. And my parents are against it too. So I'm fighting this uphill battle. So, but here's the thing. When I'm at my girlfriend's house, there's a sense of cleanliness that's not on me any other day of the week. And that just needs to be put out there. Doesn't mean I'm dirty. Like when you shook my hand at Last Stand Media, I'd say I was still in a clean state, but I don't know, man. Bidets just bring an extra layer that you don't got to worry about anymore.
Respectfully.
Respectfully, he says. He's like, okay.
All right. I'll let you have that, brother.
More importantly, let's talk about what games we're playing. Ryan, as our guest, I want to pass it off to you. What have you been messing around with this week?
I confess I have not started yet, but now that it's on Game Pass, I'm ready to dive in. Like as soon as this show's over, Back for Blood, which is behind me, I am very eager to get going on that. I got to play in the alpha last summer. Boy, that was wow. How was that long ago already? But It was everything that I wanted it to be, which was basically Left 4 Dead 3. And what I've heard from everyone who's been playing it so far now that it's out is exactly that it feels like Left 4 Dead 3, which was clearly the prime directive of this entire project at Turtle Rock. So I'm eager to dive in. This is the fact that it's on Game Pass hopefully means there's going to be a real healthy community there for at least the foreseeable future. So for the younger generation that maybe never got to play Left 4 Dead, or it was kind of they were a little young for it. It's just a kind of infinitely replayable zombie horde shooter, but the way that Turtle Rock does it, at least the way they did it back with Left 4 Dead, was just a really smart way. The monsters change, enough of it stays fresh where you just want to keep running it over and over and you have a good time.
Nice.
Yeah, Cog, I saw you were playing it as well. Do you share some of these sentiments?
Yeah, totally agree. Left 4 Dead is a cult classic. This is literally the spiritual successor in every way. It's so much fun. A romp with friends. Started that, having a ball. Also, I was talking about Phoenix Point, Last Defining Duke. So I'm still playing that from the legend Julian Gallup. If you're an XCOM fan, this is the OG, the original creator from, I believe it's XCOM UFO Defense PlayStation. That was my first XCOM game. So he made that, and that got me into the series. So salute to him. That it's a ball. XCOM may have to learn some things for Phoenix Point. They've created some cool aspects there. And then this cool little top-down racer, Circus Superstars, kind of like a RC Pro-Am meets Motor Rotor from TG16. So much fun. Very difficult, but at least Cog's skill. Maybe Cog has to get good. But it is just, I love the art style. I love the multiplayer aspect of it. Just very, very cool. A lot of potential. I think Square Enix makes it. And it's a ball, man. It's a ball. I've been really enjoying it. What about you, Matty?
I have been playing this week for the first time. I beat it. Resident Evil 4. Never played it before. This is especially weird because with Resident Evil 4, or just the series in general, sorry, I've played pretty much every one of them to completion, some of them multiple times, but 4 has just eluded me. I've never got around to it. I always hear people say, like, it's the greatest game of all time, and I'm not even exaggerating. I've told 5 different people this week, yeah, I'm playing for the first time. Every single one of them went, oh, it's one of my favorites of all time. And so going in, I had high expectations, and I gotta say, this is a rare moment where I'm like, I get it. I actually get it. I understand why people like this game so much. Not that I was resisting that. For me, 5, still my favorite. I have a special place in my heart for Resident Evil 5. But 4, man, it's really good. I mean, there's a goofiness to it, but I'm almost scared about this remake that's been rumored for a long while now, and apparently it's coming next year. I look at it and I'm like, I don't know how necessary it is. Especially because, like, at first I went, oh yeah, the controls, like, yeah, this can control a lot better. But then you realize that's, as you adjust to it and you get better at the game, it's part of the difficulty. It's part of the charm of the game. And there are certain things that the way the story is told that I think could be better.
Right.
And that could help in a remake. But as I was playing it, looking at it through that lens, I was thinking to myself, I don't know how badly this needs a remake personally. And I don't know if you guys agree with that or not, but yeah, first time playing it through, loved it. Took me about 14 hours. Really good game though.
Nice. So I saw you suplexing the zombie.
Yes.
I saw you clip.
Yeah, I shot him right in the knee and suplexed him down a flight of stairs. I went, yeah, this game's great.
Yeah, it's great.
I just, it's what I love about Resident Evil. Like in 5, you have Chris punching a boulder. Like, it's just, there's stuff like that. It's ridiculous.
I love it.
It's great.
One real thing I forgot is Destiny 2 Game Pass debut. And as opposed to the Steam, so I'm still going to stick to my prediction, Maddie. I believe, I'm holding on. I think there's still a chance Witch Queen may come to Game Pass as you get closer to release. Because I find it very interesting that they have decided to make their own version for Game Pass now. Because it initially came with Beyond Light to console only. So I'm holding on to my theory.
Okay.
I'm just see
Dude, I respect it. We got 2 hanging on theories here. We got me with Battlefield on Game Pass. We got you with Destiny. Which was it? Witch Queen?
Witch Queen. Yep, Witch Queen.
That other language I can't speak. The Destiny language.
Destiny language. I know.
All right, let's get into our warm-up questions and then the news afterwards. First one comes from Aaron Eden. What's up, Dukes? Last week, Maddie mentioned that this show gets the least write-in, so I'm here to do my part. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, everyone else who did write in. As I said, we selected as many as we could in this episode. I bought an Xbox One early on, and while I still have it, I only used it for the disappointing launch of MCC and the lackluster Halo 5 before putting it away, never looking back. Lately, though, I've been thinking about pulling the old Xbox One out for some backwards compatibility that my PS5 just can't offer. but to my knowledge, there hasn't been any original games added to the program in a long time. Is Xbox quietly done trying to figure this out? For example, Sega's OG Xbox catalog like Jet Set Radio Future, Otogi, and Gun Valkyrie remain absent despite Sega's Xbox games being some of the most prolific exclusives on the console. With Xbox emulation on PC still coming along at a snail's pace, these games, along with some others, remain stranded. So what gives? Could it be that the behind-the-scenes data shows that these original Xbox games aren't being played by enough people, to be worth the effort? Or is there something I'm completely missing? Much love. I hope you guys are having a convenience store hot dog kind of day. Ryan, I want to dish this to you. How do you feel about the current status of back compatibility? Just as I said, Cog and I recorded an episode on DDU about all of this, but where do you feel they're at right now with this program?
I mean, they've done a lot, obviously, and they of course have the numbers. The really, I would say, speaking honestly, the only optimism that I have left to cling to as far as getting more games added to the backwards compatibility list is the fact that Microsoft has made a, top-down commitment to getting rid of generations and just having compatibility across everything in perpetuity. So that gives me some hope that maybe they're not done yet, despite the obvious lack of recent additions there. But at the same point, the compatibility team at Microsoft, I'm sure they've got other projects and other priorities. I mean, we've been seeing the FPS boost stuff that you guys mentioned a minute ago. So, is that which way do you go? You only have a certain size team. How do you allocate those resources? And you have to look, well, do we boost up the backwards compatible games that people are playing, or do we add some new ones that maybe we don't know if people are going to want to dive back into necessarily? So it's a tricky problem to sit here from the peanut gallery and analyze. Microsoft, clearly, they have way more data than we do. So I do hope that over time it'll get better. But I do remember I got to go up and I met the backwards compatibility team and did a big story on them back when original Xbox games were first being added to the service. Gosh, that was probably 3 years ago now, something like that.
Right.
And one thing they told me was a lot of the, if there's a game that you want that's not there's probably a good reason. And a lot of times the reason is because those original contracts were either with publishers that don't exist anymore, like Acclaim, and or it was a paper contract. Remember, this is like 2001, 2002, 2003. And somebody might not literally be able to find the contract anymore to try and, bring it back and get it back to the right party. So there are a lot of like bizarre things that you might not think about, but are very real issues when you're a billion-dollar company that wants to do this. Like you can't just go rogue and do it. Like you have to make sure you're buttoned up legally and all this stuff so you're not liable. You don't want somebody that claims to have the rights to, I don't know, some Acclaim game, even to come out of the woodwork and go, hey, Microsoft, you just added that, like you owe me now like $1 million. So exactly. It's there are reasons that Microsoft's walk the walk, right? They've shown that they are gamer first, that they care about the community, that they do things with the gamer in mind. So I give them the benefit of the doubt on this. But as for whether or not, I wouldn't say they're done, but I'm not sure if their priorities are elsewhere right now. But if they are, it's probably for a good reason, and it's going to be something that we're all going to be super excited about when that comes around.
All right. Cog, what about you?
Yeah, Ryan. Well said, Ryan. I completely agree. I'm very fortunate to have the interview with the legendary Bill Stillwell from that back compat team, one of the OGs from it. And he said the same things, because as gamers, we go, why hasn't such and such come? This is a no-brainer. And I get it. But the reality, like you said, the contractual stuff, also licensing, music, there's some things that came out at a specific time that contractually they just can't do. And then the third thing that I remember him saying was, something to the effect that sometimes it's actually the publisher themselves. They may have an idea to bring out a remake or remaster.
Right.
And that may conflict with Microsoft's efforts to try to bring it, through back compat because, hey, money talks and they may want to charge us. So there's a lot of factors to it. But to Ryan's point, I think they've done a tremendous job so far. I think hopefully maybe 20th anniversary we get one or two nostalgic. I'm hoping. I'm being greedy. But, at this point, like you said, resources, other projects, the team has to be agile. So I think it may be where it is right now. But what do you think, Matty?
I'm of the mindset that they've got one more batch in them. I don't know if they have much more afterwards. I think it's obvious that FPS Boost generates more discussion online. I think there's more of a likelihood that people are going to go in there and they're going to play these games. And especially when they're already in the Game Pass library or they're more frequently being purchased. I just think it's probably more worthwhile for their efforts. So I think that's where they're going to head. And I think that's exciting because you can do maybe back compat through FPS Boost, bringing certain titles to a much higher frame rate and kind of celebrating them that way. There are different ways to do it other than playability, although that's the most preferred thing. It's just that, I think we'll get one more batch and they'll quietly move on from it at that point. So we'll see how they do it, when they do it, if they ever do it. Thank you for your write-in, Aaron. Let's move on to J.A. Zoo with our second question. Hey, Dukes. Hope you're well. What do you guys think about VGC reporting that Microsoft is launching an independent study into right to repair in regards to Xbox? I found this interesting because until this was posted, just as a side note, I did not know this was a thing. So let's read. To quote the article, Microsoft has agreed to hire an independent consultant to study the benefits of giving consumers more access to parts and repair documentation. As long as these findings show that there are benefits to letting people repair their own products, Microsoft has agreed that it will make new parts and documentation available beyond its authorized repair network by the end of 2022 and will launch new initiatives to help with local repairs. Are you like me and think this is potentially a huge step in the right direction for the right to repair in gaming? I really have to give kudos to Microsoft, particularly in a market where everyone else does everything in their power against right to repair. Hopefully the study proves positive results. Thanks, and I hope you have a broken console cooling fan that you can't repair on your own type of day. God damn.
Savage.
The casual disrespect is on display in this episode. I was sending Cog some screen caps. I was like, God damn, some of y'all got to chill. But once again, this is kind of new to me. I was doing some brief research on it, but I want to know what you guys think. Is this something you were familiar with prior to this story breaking out, but the right repair?
I am. I could jump in. I actually, because I'm really deep in the insider program, and one of the ones that came to my attention was this kind of like this AR, this augmented reality kind of troubleshooting from a technical standpoint, I believe with the wireless headset. So they have already shown me that they're in that space of allowing some self-help, some troubleshooting kind of thing. This information is kind of new to me with the VGC stuff, but yeah, I mean, the vibe I'm getting is they're leaning into the space and they're wanting feedback from that. So it is interesting. I'm not opposed to it if people are to give people options, right? If someone wants to do it, they feel comfortable, to do something like that in the space, by all means. But I have gotten that vibe that this is something that is on the docket that they're thinking about. But what about you, Ryan? What, have you heard anything, or where are you with this?
Well, yeah, this is kind of I've been learning about this through the Tesla community, which is one of my other big passions. That's kind of it's an argument going on there right now because currently, Teslas you have to take them to Tesla to get them serviced when they do, which is typically not often because there are no real moving parts in them, but. So yeah, there's a debate there, and in the console space, I mean, I certainly see why Microsoft would want to investigate this thoroughly because A, you can generate some customer goodwill and potentially some loyalty, and B, looking at the bottom line, it could be a thing that saves them money because if they don't have to bring your defective console in and pay their people to do it, if they're willing to sell you the part. Well, then they've just saved money on that repair and also probably generated that loyalty and goodwill. So I suppose the study is probably to see, well, are people is it a thing that people are going to be comfortable with and be able to get through without being frustrated? Because, these things are generally not meant to be opened up, and oftentimes they have like custom screws. And I mean, I haven't really looked closely at the Series X to be fair, about how easy it is or isn't to get into. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense for Microsoft to do their due diligence on this. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's certainly not a situation like the Steam Deck where they said if you break it open, it can actually literally explode and kill you. So, yeah, like I'm not even kidding, Cog. Like they actually, yeah, they were saying like, do not open it, do not open it. They were very insistent on it, and I want to say I remember Xbox saying that you couldn't open the Series X originally, but then I want to say Spawn Wave like cracked it wide open, and we got a good look at the inside of it, but. Yeah, I like that they're taking this path because what I gathered when I was doing research is a main reason people were excited about this is because it can just sometimes be more expensive for the customer to send it in and get it repaired at times. So now they have the right to repair, or eventually they will, hopefully, and they can do it themselves for, I'd imagine, cheaper. Mm-hmm. Defining Duke is brought to you by Raycon. There's no doubt that music is a complement to every single thing in our lives, no matter how menial it may be. And with things approaching normalcy, you may be like me and saying, I don't want to socialize with people. I want to be alone. And that's where nature walks are great, where I pop in my Raycons and listen to the Octopath Traveler soundtrack. Or even here at the studio, I'll put in my Raycons, I'll complete some menial tasks like cleaning up the place, and suddenly it feels like I'm upping my social stats in persona. It's all about that music. And with Raycons having 32-hour battery life, I can listen to what I want, when I want, for a really long time. And the new everyday earbuds look, feel, and sound better than ever, especially with the new pure, balanced, and bass mode profiles. Everything sounds its best. And they start at just half the price of other premium audio brands, but sound just as good. So it's time for you to create your own soundtrack. With Raycon, right now, Defining Duke listeners can get 15% off their Raycon order at buyraycon.com/Duke. That's buyraycon.com/Duke to save 15% on Raycons. buyraycon.com/Duke. Lucius Augustus is number 3.
My God.
Hello, Dukes. With Sony increasing the price of their games across the board at $70 and Nintendo pricing a 2D Metroid at $60 for the first time, the conversation around value and what makes a game worth it has come back. With games like Destruction All-Stars, Godfall, and Yoshi's Crafted World proving they aren't worth the asking price and platform holders refusing to price their games based on value, but rather setting a standard across the board, from a consumer standpoint, doesn't make a bigger argument for models like Game Pass. I hope you have an overcast kind of day. Thank you, Lucius. We appreciate that. Yeah, so this has been a big thing for a while this week is Metroid is this $60 game. Apparently it's like under 10 hours long. And there's been a big argument of quality, quantity, and comparing and contrasting all these games. We could obviously get into the particular values and opinions of everyone, but for Lucius's question on does this make an argument for models like Game Pass because the prices and opinions of people fluctuate so much? Where do you guys stand on that aspect?
Let's get Ryan in. What you feeling, Ryan?
I'm not sure. This might be an apples to oranges kind of situation. I'm not sure that these might be two different conversations. The price versus Game Pass, because Game Pass, there are different objectives. There are different. I mean, we're not even privy to we know there are various economic models within Game Pass for a developer, for a publisher. So I don't think I would look at it that way. I mean, I'm not disrespecting the person asking the question. I think it's a fair question. But for me, I'll speak to the other side of it. I happily paid $60 for Metroid Dread and a high quality 10-ish hour game, which is what Dread is. That's well worth it to me. I am a 41-year-old dad with a full-time job, and I don't say that doesn't make me better or worse than anybody else. It just makes me busy. And so for me, I am happy to pay $60 or $70 for a 10-15 hour premium experience. That is excellent value to me. Whereas I would do that sooner than I would spend $0 on a free-to-play thing that has me grinding for 100 hours. And I'm not speaking ill of that model and games like that. It's just for me and the kind of gaming I'm looking for. That is not of interest to me. I am not looking to be on a video game hamster wheel to try and get and I totally get the appeal of that. Like there is an awesome carrot at the end of the stick. If I can, I just need to put in the time to get there. For me, I want to be, rolling Halo campaigns and Hellblade 2 campaigns. Those are the kind of experiences that I'm looking for. Like Dread is a great, current example. So, everybody's different, man. It's and I think there's a little bit of a generational thing even too. I think the younger crowd tends to favor, like they want that. They want the just vastness of the game, which absolutely. I get. Like I had way more free time for video games in my 20s than I do now. And again, it's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just, that's how my life has gone. So that's kind of where I sit with it. And I guess what I would say is I'm happy to see publishers and developers use the entire pricing scale, from Game Pass to free to play to a $10 download to $30 State of Decay 2 back, when it first came out before Game Pass came around, to a $60 Metroid, to a $70 Ratchet and Clank. Like I'm all, if the game's good, if the game's great, it'll be worth whatever its asking price is. I know it's kind of like a vague, like I don't necessarily think I took a stand in that answer, and people are going to maybe
I think you
call me out,
but
I'm just open-minded to all of it, really.
I'm in the same boat, and I think the point that you said, you didn't really take a stance, but I think the major point was really, I think there's a generational gap where as all of us get older, even I found myself as a younger guy, like in my early 20s, I was always looking for that next big open world game, that 80-hour RPG, and I still love those games. I still play those games, but I definitely, when I was looking at PlayStation and looking at my hour counts for games I played, I'm a big like 20, 30-hour max guy right now. Like that's sort of my sweet spot, and I just beat a lot of different games. Sometimes I double dip, all that stuff. And I think, as you get older, with more responsibilities being put on your plate, you find yourself favoring those experiences. And so some people will fight back against that, because I think when they see a 10, they equate it with endless replayability. You can constantly go back to the game. And that's just not always the case. It's always a dictation of the quality of an experience, really. But I think you're spot on with that. I think that there is a disagreement, because, with most of the journalists being middle-aged people, it's of course they're going to probably seemingly favor these, we'll say, more compact experiences. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I always go back to the same talking point. It's probably to the point where people are sick of it, but it's why I tell people, get to know your reviewers, know what they like, know not their full lives, but know the type of lifestyle they have, right? Like for me, I make time for games every single day. I love gaming. So, I am playing some of those longer games because I am chipping away at them constantly, but not everyone's doing that. So you got to know what your reviewers are doing to I think, accurately assess their determination of value. But Cog, what about you?
Well, I'm going to add one more thing to this. Sorry, Matty. Yeah. Like,
please.
You give a good example. Like, where you mentioned, we used to play like bigger games. Like for me, Oblivion, I was 25 when Oblivion came out.
Wow.
I put 180 hours into that game. Loved the hell out of it. It's still one of my favorite games of the 360 era, if not ever. Skyrim, I put about half of that. I put about 80 hours into that game, all told. Fallout 4, I was about down to like 25 hours I put into Fallout 4. That was more, I didn't like Fallout 4 as much, which was there was more of a kind of a quality situation there. But so that's maybe an illustration of, as I've gotten older, from 25 to 30 to 35, I guess, whatever it would have been at that point. And so I've given 2 10s, to your point. At my 9 years at IGN, I've only given 2 10s. The first one was to Inside, which is 3 hours long.
Yes.
And that one I'll take to the grave. That is a 10 in perpetuity. I will never regret that score. Ooh. I will never, that game will always be a 10 to me. It is a brilliant masterpiece. But I get that some people might look at that and go, it's only 3 hours long. I mean, it was a $20 game. I don't know if they're still charging $20 for it now. But and then the other 10 I gave was Super Mario Odyssey, which is, again, still not a massive game. I mean, it's probably 20 hours maybe for Odyssey, 15, 20 hours. So yeah, it's there's a you could do an entire episode, I'm sure, on, if you haven't already, on this kind of the looking at that game length and the generational difference. Because for me, not to send the show off the rails, but I actually think I'm starting to see, especially my own daughter who's 10, like, I think the expectation of young gamers is being set very differently than it was when we were kids, like Cog and I with Nintendo, where, now I feel like a lot of the first games that kids play are mobile games in a lot of cases. I would argue that most mobile games, and I'm saying most, not a total blanket statement, but maybe, kind of pull the blanket up halfway, is they're not designed to be creative expressions of art. They are designed to keep you there playing. They're designed to kill time and get money out of you. And I find I'm turning into like hipster old man, where that disgusts me as someone who works in games for a living. Again, not saying it's all that way. There's, I think Apple's done a great job with Apple Arcade, even though nobody in the core gaming circle really talks about Apple Arcade, but there's a lot of great stuff there. But generally speaking, like my daughter's way into Roblox and the little games within that. And those are just, I just hand her the Switch and be like, play something on this, play something here. But the thing is, as those gamers grow up, I think they've had their expectations calibrated in such a way where that's what they're looking for is, my games are supposed to just keep me on that hamster wheel and keep me grinding and keep me sort of reaching for that next carrot on the stick. And then if I can get it, well, then there's another bigger carrot if I keep going another 10 hours. And that worries me for the future of the AAA game, specifically of the blockbuster big budget game, as these younger generation. And again, this is an old man yelling at a cloud right now. I completely recognize and understand that. Now, the nice part is the game industry is big enough now where there will always be a space for me, the old man yelling at the cloud. There will always be the 3-hour, insides and the 10-hour Metroid dreads. They're not mutually exclusive. There can be both, but yeah, I think the generational thing that you started to hit on there, it's a really, I think nobody really talks about it, but I think it's really a thing we're starting to see influence the entire core game industry as the kids kind of grow up out of mobile games and into the console and PC space.
Yeah. Definitely. Well said.
Yeah, well said. I mean, fantastic points, both of you. I think that, beauty's in the eye of the beholder to me. Value is subjective in my opinion. And it's so interesting to see like these debates go on online with this stuff. And, to Lucia's question, as far as that versus Game Pass, I think that's the beauty of Game Pass, is that you have these options. You have all these different styles of games that kind of fall into these different pockets. Like, Ryan said about the, game like an Insight, even though it's not Game Pass, but those shorter experiences. Whereas, you may have those grindy, big RPG, 100-hour, bombastic kind of a thing. And that's the beauty of it. I mean, as far as like with the pricing, if that's going to, dictate and lean anyone towards that, I don't know. It's something we still have to monitor, but I do hear you guys' points on the generational aspect. That is something to really, take monitor to. And, for me, it's just, I'm still of the mindset, if I see it, it looks good, I'm going to pay for it, whether or not it's in Game Pass or not. That's just where I am. But I will say, on the flip side, there are times where I go, you know what? That looks cool, but I don't know if I'm willing to commit at said price. And I might wait to give. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, it's honestly, as Ryan said a couple minutes ago, I think you could make like a whole episode on
that's a topic.
There's so much nuance to it, but we will move on to number 4 now. Blaine Lamberson writes in, "Hey Dukes, first and foremost, I know COG gets a lot of love from the fans, and deservedly so. However, I got to spread some love to our Duke, Maddie. You handled the transition from one co-host to another and didn't skip a beat. This speaks dividends to your professionalism, work ethic, and passion you put into this podcast. Thank you, Blaine. I really appreciate that. Now, enough of the brown nosing. Here's the question. Maddie, This is a throwback to a few weeks back when you were getting called out for wanting to play Back 4 Blood on Game Pass. And you were getting accused of not supporting devs on Twitter. Now, with current theories and speculation that Sony and Netflix could be working on some subscription model, and if this does happen, are these, in quotes, fanboys, end quote, going to swallow their words and enjoy the, quote, value, end quote, of a subscription-based model? Or are they going to die on that hill and support the devs? Personally, there's room for both services. Just like I pay for Netflix, Disney Plus, and Hulu, I'll gladly pay for Game Pass in a PS5 type of subscription model. Thoughts? Thanks for the podcast, and hope you find an extra fry at the bottom of the bag type of day.
Right. How are you not supporting developers?
Talk to them. Talk to them, man.
By playing the game on the Game Pass service.
Educate
that makes
them.
No sense. That
Talk to them.
Less than 0 sense. That is that is ridiculous. That sounds like it was written by, I don't know, by a very bitter Sony fanboy, I guess. I don't know. Like, there are a million different ways that Game Pass can be set up. We're not privy to the details of most of them. But let's say there's I think the scenario I'm about to lay out is very possible. Okay. Let's say there are financial bonuses tied to a certain number of people, milestone player counts on Game Pass. Let's say for if you get to 100,000 players on Game Pass for Back 4 Blood, there is let's say there's a $3 million payment that goes from Microsoft to Turtle Rock and WB. Let's say if they get to 1 million players, there's a 20 million. You are playing the game in the way. Like, do you think Microsoft held a gun to Turtle Rock and WB's head and said, "Put it on Game Pass or else"?
Signed a contract.
No, they enter into the agreement voluntarily because there is either, the deal is structured in a way that they're either getting paid in various ways, and or they're getting a larger player count so that they can then monetize cosmetic skins or whatever. The developer is being supported. This is an asinine argument.
Talk to him.
Yeah, it has been. It hasn't been since that tweet, but it was a battle that day, for damn sure. But ever since then, everyone's of the mindset is
all these armchair Phil Spencers out here. I think they know what's up.
I know. But with that, there is rumors, because we'll talk about this in the news a little bit more, but we can definitely hop into it a little bit now, of PlayStation wanting to reach millions of gamers. And a major way to do that is we're seeing Xbox. They said years ago with, I think it was the introduction, of xCloud, was that they wanted to reach more and more gamers. And they started off their E3 conferences of how many millions or billions of people are playing video games, including mobile gamers. And so you're seeing PlayStation start to take a page from that playbook and go like, well, we want to reach that many people. And Xbox is well on their way. I think they'll eventually get there. But now we're seeing Netflix, for example, buy up Night School Studio. I would be shocked if Netflix didn't do their own gaming service or roll it into Netflix as a whole. We're starting to see probably more gaming subscription models pop up. And do you think that the people who have been detracting Game Pass are going to effectively sign up and get the games for the value, or are they going to support the devs, Ryan? Are they going to support the devs? They're going to shell out the $60 to $70.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And thank you, Ryan. Like, this is something I've been screaming at the top of my lungs. Support the devs, man. I'm buying the game physical. So listen, I get it. The reasons
hold on.
Listen, I'm about to give you your props. Hold on. The only reasons, in my opinion, where a person comes to me and say, "Hey, look, I'm not going to get it on Game Pass," and I totally have no problem, is one, if you're a physical collector, like my boy Matty, right? And you're like, you want your collector's edition, you want the pomp and circumstance, you want that thing, right? And to celebrate that game. Totally understandable. Or, shout out to my boy Colin, where it's like, okay, you're embedded in the PlayStation ecosystem, right? So you're accustomed to the trophies. And let's say I use Yakuza like an example. The new Yakuza Like a Dragon. You've played every Yakuza prior on PlayStation, right? Yakuza Like a Dragon comes out, it's in Game Pass. That's cool. But it's like, okay, I want to keep that trophy and stay in that ecosystem. And I get that. But all this nonsense about supporting the dev, stop. That is fanboyism. That right there is not. If you truly care about the studio and you truly care about what's going on, like Ryan eloquently said, and I've had devs that have Game Pass deals on ILP have said, each one is different, but for the most part, a lot of these guys have to get their money up front, or they have an arrangement where they are being compensated. They are getting taken care of. That is actually beneficial to the dev. You want them to be around. Now, to this question, like you were saying, Maddie, with the whole PS5 thing and possible, obviously, Jim Ryan's comments, which we might get into later, there is a chance that right now he is not happy with the current console model. He feels there is a ceiling. So in order to satiate and get hundreds of millions, you may have to open up the borders outside of just, the console ecosystem. And that, if it's a subscription model, I know they have something with Crunchyroll or something like that.
Right.
There are different ways they could go about it. So, all I would say is, be cognizant, people who are so anti-subscription model and anti-Game Pass, because if it happens on your platform, are you not going to support the devs? So are you not going to pick up these games because of that? It's just very interesting. I just think fanboys kind of box themselves.
It'll be a very interesting day when PlayStation does their inevitable Game Pass competitor and the script is flipped. It'll be not only that, because I'm excited to see Xbox get some competition in that space,
right,
but it is going to be really a joy, a treat to read Twitter that day and be like, oh, you like it.
Oh, you like it now.
Oh, you think
are getting paid now.
Oh, this is good. This is good to you. Okay.
You know what's really not supporting the devs is pirating Metroid Dread. Don't fucking do that.
Yeah.
That's what's not supporting devs. Game Pass is fine. Don't worry about it.
Preach, brother.
Absolutely.
Preach.
And the other thing is, even if we knew nothing about the money deals that go on, right? We have like an inkling of that. Why would everyone flock to this service? Like, everyone's getting involved if they're losing. Like, clearly there's a gain here. Otherwise, everyone wouldn't be getting involved.
It's just people not being gamers. At the end of the day, I even said this scenario. Let's just say it's the worst case scenario for Microsoft, and Microsoft goes out of business as a result of this. as a gamer, shouldn't you care that it benefits you first and the developer up front? Those two factors got taken care of and compensated. It's just so funny. The concern trolling is we know what's going on. We know.
Absolutely. All right, number 5. We'll get into the news right after this. Hello, fellas. Oh, sorry, this comes from Dylan. I should have said your name first. With previews coming out about Forza Horizon 5, and the feedback, unsurprisingly, is very positive. My question is, where the hell are the TV promo ads? One of my major complaints about Xbox right now is that they never do enough to promote their first-party games on the large scale. To me, having a beautiful Forza trailer during a primetime NFL or MLB game seems obvious. Maybe this is a me thing. By the way, I'm seeing Back 4 Blood trailers promoting it being day one on Game Pass, which is great. But what about your own games? Thanks. And have an A1 kind of day. Yeah, especially with MLB playoffs ongoing right now. Football is back. This is a good time to strike with a little TV trailer. Although, outside of sports, I don't watch much TV, so maybe there is a trailer floating around there. But what do you guys think about the promotion levels of even something like Forza? Because, for example, I don't remember how much promotion Forza Horizon 4 got, but it's like one of the most played games on Game Pass with 20 plus million players, and it's super profitable for them. So do they care that much? Is it money saved when they're not doing these TV ads? Where do you guys stand on this?
Defer to Ryan. What'd you think?
Well, was it Dylan? Is that who wrote in on that?
Dylan. Yeah.
Completely agree with Dylan. I think that is. I'm not pretending that I know better than Aaron Greenberg and the marketing team at Microsoft. It's not my field, but I do agree. Like there's something about, there's like a pride in the product to an extent when you're. And I'm not saying they don't have that, but I just agree with Dylan. I think it's great to see these, the games being promoted in sort of outside of normal gaming circles in big places like, playoff sporting events or what have you. And so I'm totally with Dylan. For me, I just think it's too early for Forza Horizon 4. The game's not out. We got like 3 weeks. So 3 weeks, usually, unless it's a major tentpole like Halo 2 kind of situation, I think we're likely to see if those ads are coming on, NFL Sundays, college football Saturdays, MLB playoffs, probably closer to November when the game's actually coming out. Because, you don't want to put for the sort of general game buying audience, not the core people listening to Defining Duke, you want to advertise when you can actually sell that person a product, when you're ready to go, and they see that Forza Horizon commercial and we're like, whoa, that's the most beautiful car game I've ever seen in my life. I totally want to play that on my Xbox that I have over there. How do I buy that? Oh, it's not out yet. Okay. And then they never buy it because
then they forget. Yeah.
So yeah, I think give it a little time and hopefully we'll see it here in the next few weeks.
Yeah, completely agree.
You want to add, Cog?
Yeah, man, I completely agree. I think Dylan's on the money with that as well. Just the perception. I feel like the perception, it feels like sometimes with the bigger first party games, I feel like they should do a little bit more. Again, like Ryan said, I'm not in marketing. I don't know if, from the cost effectiveness and how they look at their metrics, as far as what actually is effective with social media or versus the big spots. But, personally, I would like to see, them take advantage of the bigger TV spots and stuff like that when it comes to the big first party games. So yeah, I'm there. I actually like this question a lot. I think they can do better there. I remember Sony very competitively in the space. I mean, I'm from New York City. I remember a whole Spider-Man train when that was announced. Like the whole train was, I was just like, wow, that is some, big first party marketing and visibility. So I would love to see, Microsoft really embrace in that space. But what about you, Maddie?
Yeah, I am more so. I didn't really think of Forza much as Halo. I feel like Halo's the one that I'm expecting to see all over my TV when the time comes. Forza less so. I don't know why. Maybe that's just my my bias, my apparent hatred of Forza. But
Forza hater.
Yeah, but I just I never really considered it deeply. But it is something that I think is an omission, and the reason I mention that is because during some of these references here, like NFL, MLB. I did see PlayStation commercials of just their catalog, and that's sort of what I expect from Xbox this holiday. Is like, you have games coming out this holiday.
Huge.
Do a sort of compilation of like, here's things in Game Pass, here's our first party lineup, that type of thing, like a quick 30-second little blip to promote just what is happening with Xbox in the holiday period and try to get more people to want your console. I agree with Ryan that you got to get beyond the gaming circles that are already, I think, buying into you and your future.
No doubt.
With that, thank you for your write-ins. We have many more to go over, but let's get into the news. Number 1, Xbox currently owns every Western RPG developer worth caring about, and arguably the most significant studio in that stable is Obsidian Entertainment. Best known for their work on Fallout New Vegas, South Park Stick of Truth, Pillars of Eternity, The Outer Worlds, plus the unexpected success of Grounded leaves good reason for fans to be excited about what Avowed presents. With that, a gigantic leak is spilled onto the internet, providing a plethora of new details. This report comes from Dad of Xbox, Jez Corden of Windows Central Gaming. Jez reports that he's seen a pre-alpha build of the game and that the results are encouraging. The game's combat will be recognizable to fans of Skyrim, as it borrows the two-handed system that is set in a first-person point of view. You can explore multiple class playstyles, like a bow for archery, dual daggers for stealth, a spell in one hand and a sword in the other, or equipping a spell to each hand and using them both at the same time for a souped-up version of said spell. The write-up mentions spells familiar to players of Pillars of Eternity, such as Jolting Touch, imbuing your weapons with the elements, Fetid Caress, and Fireball, the latter of which can interact with environments by scorching away obstacles in the doorways. Physical combat follows the path of mapping specific abilities to the face buttons of the controller to be able to do things like a shield bash or a powerful kick. As for the world itself, the report states that it's much more colorful than the drab and war-torn environments revealed in the trailer from July 2020. It mentioned luminescent cave mushrooms, verdant forests awash with gigantic flora, and hulking sunlit temples complete with skeleton-infested depths and tombs that are plentiful. Despite a job listing suggesting Obsidian is working on a cohesive open world, Jez writes that he expects Avowed to be hub-based, akin to what we've seen from Obsidian recently in the Outer Worlds, or something more distant like KOTOR 2. To cap off a stellar preview, he mentioned that there is the possibility Avowed shows up before E3 2022, mentioning the tantalizing thought of Hellblade 2 and Avowed showing up together at the Game Awards. So this was our number 1 for sure this week. Jez came in with the major gameplay details. I'm, of course, very excited for Avowed. I have a lot of thoughts on this, but I want to dish it to Ryan first. Ryan, what do you think about some of the gameplay details that have spilled onto the web?
Well, tip of the cap to Jez first up on this one. Good stuff on this. Yeah, I believe I read his report too. Didn't it say that it's still deep in pre-production? So
it should be exiting it
yeah,
soon or something like
I am
that.
not as optimistic on the timeline. I mean, it's not to say we won't get I think he's referring to a trailer there for E3 next year. That wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, it still sounds like the game is pretty far away, because even if it's not fully open world, if you're only in pre-production and you're a AAA Obsidian, I mean, you're still working from home, and this game's probably, I mean, depending on when it comes out of pre-production, I think holiday 2023 might be the most optimistic you could possibly get. And that's okay. You know, there are plenty of Microsoft studios. Take your time, because this absolutely sounds like it could be the Elder Scrolls 6 while we wait for Elder Scrolls 6, which is so far.
Yes.
We might not even see
that.
Elder Scrolls 6 on the Series X. Like, that's how far away it is, given that Starfield is Todd Howard's team's project, and that's not scheduled to wrap up until next holiday, another year from a little over a year from now. So yeah Avowed definitely seems like it could very well scratch that Elder Scrolls itch in the best of ways. And I mean, again, remember what the thing about Obsidian, this is a team who, while they have made a lot of excellent games over the years, they've always kind of been shafted by their publisher in some way, whether it's being given the short shrift on time, budget, both. I mean, you look at Alpha Protocol, a game that had a lot of potential, but just couldn't get there. You look at, I mean, South Park: The Stick of Truth did turn out amazing, but that changed hands big time. Like, that went from THQ to Ubisoft. There's a lot of, disturbance in there. You look at, I mean, Pillars of Eternity itself was excellent, but crowdfunded. It did not have the full resources of a Microsoft or a major publisher. You look at, of course, famously, Fallout New Vegas being rushed out and just missing its Metacritic bonus, which I hope no publisher ever does a bonus tied to Metacritic ever again, because the developers should not be paid or not based on what idiots like me have to say about the game. That is a patently ridiculous scenario. And I'm leaving one out. It's there was one other major one that they fell prey to. Outer Worlds seemed pretty clean. No, there was it's right on the tip of my tongue.
KOTOR
but anyway,
2, maybe? I don't know.
What's that?
KOTOR 2,
Thank
maybe?
you. That was it. KOTOR 2 famously said, "Oh, you guys got a ship for the holiday," and there was no ending to that game, and modders added in the ending that was supposed to be there later. So my very long-winded point here being that Avowed is going to be really the first time they've had a chance to make a full-blown AAA go for broke experience in the role-playing genre with the full backing of Microsoft's resources. They're going to have probably about as much time as they need. They're going to have a ton of money, so there's a lot of reason to be very, very optimistic about Avowed. Just be patient. That's the thing. I think agreed. Just based on Jez's report, my interpretation of it is maybe holiday 2024. I think that game's probably still 3 years away. But I don't know anything. But that's my interpretation based on what he wrote about where the game's at. But it sounds like it could be phenomenal.
Cog, what about you? What did you think of Jez's write-up here?
So excited. Like, Ryan might appreciate this. Like, when I look at Xbox Game Studios and I looked at all the new acquisitions, and it was like 2018, they started to really commit. And from a sports standpoint, it's like you got all these draft picks, right? And I'm just like, okay, and shout out to the late Dizzy. He's the founder of LordsOfGaming.net. We used to play this game. Okay, so who he would say, yo, Cog, I got Ninja Theory. That's going to be the one, right? Mm-hmm. And I always said Obsidian, man. They were the ones for me. And even we would have our battles, because I even wasn't a Grounded guy. When it was announced, I was like, what are they doing? I was like, and then it turns out to be really fun. And people really gravitate towards it. So, I remember seeing Avowed, and I'm just like, okay, this is their take. This is the Skyrim they want to do. And Ryan said it beautifully. I always felt like prior to the acquisition, they always kind of got shafted in some way. And shout out to Fergus and the team. Those guys are great. I mean, we were able to have the Outer Worlds team on ILP, the narrative. Like, narrative, I'm not even worried. not even concerned. Pillar of Eternal Universe,
Zero
not even
concern.
concerned. Like, this is gonna hit.
Especially the
What
Outer
is
Worlds DLC, not to interrupt you, but
Oh yeah,
fantastic. So
Murder at
nope.
Iridanos,
Oh,
amazing. Please play that.
yeah,
Please play that.
agreed.
Absolutely hilarious.
Agreed.
The thing about them though, what I'm hearing is, the spell crafting and the way like you can form and do these complex, motions with the hands and stuff like that. The different play styles. And the other thing, I actually like he's seeing different color palettes and one thing about people who like Outer Worlds, it's a very vibrant game. It's very colorful. It's very very pleasant on the eye. So I like to hear those different type of locales. Obviously, you're gonna have your dungeons and all that stuff, but this has me excited. And if it's Hub World, hey, me and Ryan, I think, and me, Maddie, we all team Hub World here. Like, I don't necessarily need it to have to be this open world 100-hour kind of thing. If they want to do a more condensed story in these tight-knit spaces, I'm for it. So all of this excites me. Yes, it may be a while away, but let them take their time. Put it this way: Obsidian with a budget, super exciting for me. So I'm all about this, man. That's my number one draft pick, Obsidian, man.
I'm with you, man. Yeah, out of everyone they got, like, yeah, even including Bethesda Game Studios, like, Obsidian's it, man. Like, they're the ones that I'm like, this could be, in a manner of speaking, their Insomniac. Like, when you're seeing what they did with Grounded, how we're seeing the polish level with the Outer Worlds, I think you're just going to see a lot of flexibility, because now we know they're working on a number of different projects underneath Microsoft, some of them small, some of them big. So I think they're going to surprise some people in the coming years. And I think Avowed's going to sort of be their stamp on the world. And so reading this preview, I was really excited. I was kind of fascinated, though, when Jez mentioned he's really not sure it's going to be open world, because I usually, when I hear open world and RPG, to me, it's like the kiss of death to real choice and consequence in the story. It just, it's so rare nowadays. And I'm hoping that I love Hub Worlds, and I would prefer Hub Worlds because I trust them more there. But we are talking about a studio where, even though there's been a lot of turnover in talent, we're talking about the studio that I think did a masterful job in the terms of open world choice and consequence with Fallout New Vegas, which, still I think is a template that has yet to be shown up. You look at something like Cyberpunk, or Fallout 4 tried to imitate it, but really Cyberpunk modeled its open world template more after GTA than Fallout New Vegas, where I think people need to go back to the drawing board when they're making these open world RPGs and take a look at New Vegas. So what better than the studio itself who brought us that game to bring us another open world RPG that I think they could handle it. So they're the team I trust to do something like that. So either way they go, I'm just going to be like, all right, cool. Give me what you've got. What I found was really encouraging with the write-up was his real emphasis on builds, that he can already see that now. He was talking about how they play differently, because look, I'm a big Elder Scrolls fan, but if there's one thing that holds that series back, it's its combat. It's not feel that great. It's really about the exploration, the stories, whether it be environmentally or told to you through characters. There's something special about Elder Scrolls, but its combat is not that.
Not feeling the butter knife.
No, exactly. I mean, there's stuff that's cool, like spellcrafting in Oblivion. There's awesome ways to play the game, but as technology has progressed, people expect a little bit more. So hearing like, yeah, you can have a powerful kick mapped to a face button. You can do a shield bash with another button. To me, that is, yes, like that's what we need for this type of game is to bring the combat up just one more level. It doesn't need to be, I'd say, like God of War-esque, but it needs to be better. And so plus the environmental interactivity with spells, I'm hoping it's not just a fireball, but you could use like that jolting touch to interact with something mechanical. I think there's a lot of potential there, especially with, this is going to be deeper into the now current gen, but really next generation of consoles, where there's some real potential here for them to surprise us in ways that we didn't originally expect.
Agreed.
So yeah, really, really excited for Avowed. Time will tell whenever we see it. Just one thing I wanted to touch on before we move on to our next news bit. Obviously, we know this is early in development. Do we think, though, that a trailer at the Game Awards is possible? Do we think it's likely? Ryan, I want your 2 cents on that, because you seemed a little, like you were saying holiday 2024.
It's certainly possible. I'm not sure if the game is as far out as I think it is. I'm not sure why you'd put a trailer out in December of 2021. I don't know really what benefit that would be for Microsoft. So now Hellblade 2, on the other hand, I know that's the other one being talked about for the Game Awards. That makes more sense, because that one, we haven't heard, or there's been nothing on that since its initial reveal at the Game Awards 2 years ago. So that one would make more sense. Like, okay, you want to maybe debut the first gameplay trailer, something like that. But yeah, I would be less optimistic about seeing Avowed in any form at the Game Awards. I'd be happy to be wrong about that, but I think Hellblade's probably more likely.
Yeah. What about you, Clark?
Yeah, I'm leaning the same way. I think that, to me, the cycle generally is like, first announced CGI trailer, then you kind of don't see it for a while.
See you later.
And then, 3 or 4, the teaser, the vertical slice, and then you don't see it. And then from there, you get gameplay. So I still think, and now based on judge reports, I'm totally in agreement with Ryan. I think it's still a while. I know Maddie might be holding on for hope.
Dude,
I know.
On this island. Don't worry.
You're on this island alone, but I respect it.
I haven't moved off my island. I think it's happening. I think it's happening. Yeah.
Okay.
I think they're going for. See, here's the thing.
Okay.
2 things that I'm hanging on to. Number 1, Xbox Wire, right? This isn't even scoops or press related. Xbox Wire, they reveal the Outer Worlds 2. They have a post there from E3, and they're like, yeah, we're still working on Avowed. We'll have more to show with you soon. That was in June.
Right.
I don't know. To me, soon doesn't say we'll see you E3 2022. To me, that says we'll see you sometime this year. So I'm of the mindset that was intentionally planted there for folks like myself who are like, oh, okay. All right, we'll see you then. But the other thing is the history of the Game Awards. I think there's something there where the Outer Worlds was revealed at the Game Awards. And so I'm wondering if Obsidian makes a return there. Xbox loves the Game Awards. Clearly, they revealed their own console there. So I just feel like if they can make use of Jeff's stage as much as possible with all the eyes that are on it, I think they might do a little trailer. I think what they're going to do is kind of the God of War treatment. That's why I'm saying this. I agree with Ryan. I think it's a little bit further out. But I think they're going to give us like that kind of placeholder date where you see it and go like, nah, there's no way it's hitting that. But you at least have an idea of what the game is. And I think they're going to do that with Avowed just to get people to see like, yeah, we got our own Skyrim coming. It's on the way.
So he's holding out hope, respectfully.
I'm holding out hope, and I will parade around this show if I'm correct. If I'm wrong,
I'll give you your roses. I'll give you your roses.
I can act like it never happened.
Exactly, as all internet predictions go.
All right, number 2, we talked about this briefly in our questions. Let's dive deep into it. Last week, PlayStation President Jim Ryan took on an interview with GamesIndustry.biz. It was the discussion of many things, but perhaps the most interesting was Jim's comments on his desire to have PlayStation games reach many more players. How many? Well, we'll let Jim speak for himself. Quote, I would like to see a world where the games that we make at PlayStation can be enjoyed by many tens of millions of people, perhaps hundreds of millions of people. Right now, success with the current console model, a really great PlayStation hit, you're talking 10 or 20 million people being able to play that game. We're talking about games stacking against music. We're talking about games stacking against movies. Music and movies, they can be enjoyed by an almost limitless audience. And I think some of the art that our studios are making is some of the finest entertainment that has been made anywhere in the world. And to kind of gate the audience for that wonderful art, wonderful entertainment that our studios are making, to gate the audience for that at 20 or 30 million frustrates me. I would love to see a world where hundreds of millions of people can enjoy those games, end quote. We got a write-in from Michael Buffle. Hey, Dukes, both PlayStation and Xbox have stated goals of reaching hundreds of millions of gamers. With the recent rules and limitations China is imposing on games that will be allowed to be played there, is that a realistic goal without that market? Do you think the direction could be given by either Sony or Microsoft to their studios about the content in their games so they could reach that market? Thanks for the great day and have a stepped in dog crap kind of day, Michael. My goodness. So yeah, Jim Ryan's got some lofty aspirations for his games. We know Microsoft shares that. We could talk about the China Avenue in a second. I just want to include that question in the entire write-up there. What do we feel about Jim ever so slightly taking what I think is like the Xbox path of things? Like they want to reach more. Like they're getting to that point where they want to go beyond what I think is just the console space. We saw them messing around with phones and whatnot. I remember Sacred Symbols like covered a PlayStation phone game of some kind. I didn't listen to that episode, so I don't know the intimate details of it, but I did see they talked about it. So what do you guys make of PlayStation's aspirations here?
What you thinking, Ryan?
PC. They've been testing the waters for a little while, and it's obvious. I mean, that's the way to do it. I mean, we saw I think it was last week, there was a report. Capcom straight up came out and said, hey, we're going to lead on PC with everything now because that market's huge. It's growing a lot, both in Japan and globally. So, a major Japanese publisher, Sony's home turf, says, we're going to lead with PC. So, yeah, that's Microsoft's, well on their way already. You remember years back, Microsoft they were the boy who cried wolf about PC for a long time. They're like, we're serious about PC, you guys, really? And then they never did a damn thing about it. But eventually they finally did get serious about it. And now PC is very much part of the Xbox ecosystem, much to the chagrin of a lot of Sony fanboys who like to claim, well, why do you even need an Xbox? Well, to your point earlier, Maddie, when Sony starts shipping every first-party Sony game day and date on PC within the next few years, that whole argument will go out the window again. Well, what do you need a PlayStation for? It doesn't matter. All of that is ridiculous. If you want to just buy a high-end PC, great, do that. And sounds like you'll probably have PlayStation 5 games that you can play on there before too long, as in addition to Xbox games. So yeah, the PCs, I don't know about cloud. I mean, that's a bit of a different. I mean, Microsoft still hasn't even solved that. They're working on it, but PC is just the next obvious step.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if PlayStation's gonna, because I don't know if Jim, and we'll never know probably, if he's talking like over time hitting that goal or hitting it within a specific period. The reason that's important is because I find it hard to imagine that PlayStation is going to relinquish the free money that they make by double dipping, right? By saying like, here's your Ghost of Tsushima, and then like 1 year later, a year and a half later, however long it'll be, saying like, here's your PC version now with all the DLC we dropped. Like, I feel they stand to make so much money off of that I can't imagine them letting go of that. So I think they'll embrace PC, but I don't know if it'll be, I think it's gonna be circumstantial, right? Like you look at KOTOR remake, they're doing that seemingly day and date, like PC, PlayStation, same time. Whereas I don't know if the next God of War that's going to push their consoles. So they're going to, I think, just sit on the fence a little bit with this one, which I don't know if will get them to their goal, especially when he's seemingly talking about his first party studios where he's like, we're making wonderful entertainment, some of the best the world has seen. I have to imagine he's talking about your Horizons, your God of Wars, Recon, what have you.
Yeah.
What about you, Doug?
I agree. I think that the comments are very telling to me. I think what was interesting about it is I feel he's being more transparent as he goes on in the generation as far as what the goals are long term for Sony. And when I hear words like, we don't want to gate the audience at 10 to 20 million for, I guess, these first party exclusives that they have, to me it screams like what Ryan's saying, like, PC, and to the, we've even seen the Nixus acquisition, which is a studio was known for PC ports. So the writing's on the wall as far as expansion. I do think they are going to play in the cloud space. We did hear about, the Azure deal that they did with Microsoft, obviously,
hilariously,
right? They pioneered the space with Gaikai initially. Right. Mm-hmm. And now they looked at their solution and they want to partner. I know it was an exchange. I think they gave Microsoft, I don't know, lenses or something. I can't remember the details of what happened there, but I do remember them jumping into Microsoft Azure. And I thought that was a big, subtle thing. So, yeah, mobile as well. I do think Sony is the type, I agree with you, Maddie, though. Sony's the type to kind of do like a one step forward, not like the full dive in like Microsoft. Microsoft would ultimately commit. But I think they, do the double dip, maybe spread out the release. I'm not sure if day and date yet. I know a lot of people are saying that, but I do think they are slowly pivoting in that direction, and they want to reach a larger audience. That's what I think.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. What do we think of China, though, with the recent rules and limitations? Like Michael had stated, we've seen that there was a report we talked about last week where they were going to limit games with like that were morally gray or had choices that had like effeminate men. There was also the recent statement that is official, which is that if you're below 18, you can only play 3 hours a week. So do you think that this impacts Microsoft's goal? Because, like it or not, there's a huge population in China, and they would need to tap into that to some extent to reach that goal of tens of millions, hundreds of millions, like they've both been talking about.
I mean, I'll jump in. I mean, I'm sorry, Ryan, if you were going to jump in, but yeah, I mean, it is interesting because China is a market, right? We can't deny the impact. I believe consoles, just now getting there and stuff like that. But when you hear about, these comments and the restrictions and things of that nature from, what type of game. I just look at it and put it like this, like a game like Mass Effect would never exist in China, to be honest, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
As far as same-sex relationships, as far as choice, moral choices, things of that nature. So that's a fine line that game companies are going to have to play when you're trying to penetrate that market. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know. The question to your question, I'm not sure if they can do it without. Maybe the metrics show they can. I'm not sure. That's the part I'm unsure of.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you think, Ryan?
Well, first, I have to apologize to you guys. I've got to give you about a 10-minute warning here because we're recording in the middle of the workday, so I've snuck out for this. But yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I'll be honest. I don't pretend to have the answer to this one. I don't even want to try and BS it. I mean, obviously, I definitely know that China is a massive market. Of course it is. But I will say that, I mean, the North American market's strong. Europe is extremely strong. The South American market has been booming in the gaming space. I mean, it's a big, it's probably one of the biggest markets for Microsoft now. Maybe, I don't know if it's bigger than Europe because, famously, like PlayStation's always dominated Europe and Xbox hasn't. But I know there's a massive community of Xbox gamers in South and Central America. So, I don't know. I don't know how much of China would, if you can factor that out and still achieve those goals. But if you're a game company, you obviously, you don't have a lot of control there. So, and they know that they need to achieve their goals by means that they can control. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but more gaming is good, period.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, man. I mean, if you want, Maddie, if I was going to ask, because I know Ryan's time is limited, if you don't mind, if maybe we can get the Undead Labs kind of topic, because that's his story. Yep, my man. And then we'll see Ryan, and then because there's still a lot of stuff
Absolutely.
to talk about.
We'll 100% do that. Yeah, this is your write-up, so if you want to go ahead and read that, because it's all you, man. Shout out to Cog. Just quick backstory, because my arm is extremely sore today, and I literally can't type. So I was just like, hey, can you do this? So shout out to him for doing this. He added this into our news story. So go for it, Cog.
Yeah, I'm just gonna scroll down a little bit. Apologies.
No, you're good.
Yeah. So again, breaking news from the legend himself, Ryan McCaffrey. Kind of broken on IGN. Yeah, State of Decay founder Jeff Strange starts a new studio, Possibility Space. So it's kind of a work from home developer, big ambitious goals. So Jeff Strange, the founder of State of Decay. He previously worked at ArenaNet. He is now going to be starting a studio based in New Orleans, Possibility Space. Studio will be a distributed team, meaning employees can work from anywhere. Team aims to create a AAA game. Then he goes on actually to talk about how he's referring his time at Microsoft. And then he said that if you look at the way that Microsoft manages their studios they've acquired over the past 5 years versus 10 years ago, there's a profound difference. He said they do a good job of acknowledging the diversity of cultures and strengths and not weaknesses. So he's pretty much given props there. And then he goes on to, this team that's acquired is it's an all-star team of talent. You got Jane Eng from Campo Stanto Valve, Austin Walker, Waypoint Media, Liz England, Ubisoft, Brandon Dillon, Oculus, my boy Richard Fogey, who was previously at Undead Labs, who I know very well. Eric, this is just a great talent. And so basically he was saying that some will work out of New Orleans, but most will not. He said the pandemic accelerated a lot of trends that are already in place. The fact that it is completely possible to work wherever you want and live wherever you want to live. I do think that most developers like that kind of freedom. Most game studios have shown during the pandemic that you can continue to develop great games in a distributed fashion. For me, the opportunity is here. Let's lean into a fully distributed studio. It's about your culture. Let's embrace it and have access to a global talent pool. So Ryan, this was your article. You kind of broke it on IGN. This is huge news. What do you think about this? And then also, the second part of this question I have for you is, what do we think about the future of Undead Labs after this? So I wanted to two-part it with you before you go.
Yeah, no, I had a chance to talk to Jeff for about half an hour last week ahead of this, and yeah, this is an accomplished guy. I mean, prior, you mentioned ArenaNet. Of course, he's founded Undead Labs, which has made so far 2 State of Decay games. Before that, he was the original lead programmer on World of Warcraft way back. So it's a guy who's done some stuff in the business, and I really enjoy talking to him. He's one of the more genuine people, particularly at his level, that I have the pleasure of speaking with from time to time. And yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what they do. He's saying all the right things as far as, I brought up sort of his response. He wrote an open letter that IGN published in response to the horrific accusations and situation at Blizzard with the lawsuit there from the state of California. And he basically, he openly called for unionization and said, hey, and then I said, hey, last week, I said, hey, it's been a month or two since you published that. What do you think? What now? And he said, well, my goal there was for somebody at the studio head level, I want to help kind of defang the scary idea of unionization, defang it not for developers, but for studio heads and publishers, the people at the top that would be faced with the union.
Right.
So he's embracing diversity. He's embracing employee health and wellness, saying all the right stuff. And I wish him the best. Certainly. I mean, he said are you guys going to be making a big game, a small game? And he said, well, we have big ambitious goals and the resources to achieve those goals. So, wow. I don't know if he's signed with somebody and they're not saying yet, publisher wise or what, but it's another new creative group that'll be in an area of the country where, New Orleans, I mean, even though they're distributed, where they don't, like New Orleans, you don't think of New Orleans as a game development hotbed the way you do, sure, Seattle or Austin or San Francisco or Los Angeles. So, let's start getting some, and he made a big point during our conversation of wanting to do a lot of mentorship and bringing in, people from the South and that sort of greater community and give them opportunity in the game space. So I love it. I'm looking forward to see what they do in the next few years. And as for State of Decay, I mean, he told me, he said he's very proud of what they did there. They did something that I would agree with him when he said that nobody had really done before, which is a zombie game kind of built on systems and role playing, not just a shooter or a hack and slash kind of game. And he said, yeah, it was for him and his wife are both from the South, and their parents kind of needed them closer. So he there was a family motivation for him and his wife to go. And because of course Undead Labs is in Seattle.
Yep.
And he also said, it's 10 years. He was ready for a little creative renewal as well. He made, he certainly wasn't speaking ill of State of Decay 3. He says there's a lot of fresh talent in there that he thinks is going to bring State of Decay 3, to the place it needs to be, which is, that higher polish version of the game that, we've seen two great kind of rough sketches of that now, hopefully with Microsoft's full backing, they'll be able to really deliver on the full potential of that IP. So yeah, it's a good thing. I mean, it's a healthy tree that has its fruit is bearing new seeds and hopefully will grow into awesome new trees that also bear fruit later and just end up giving us more great games to play.
But Ryan, absolutely. We know how the internet works. That's not how the internet works, bro. They're gonna say
that's how real life works, though. That's the thing. It doesn't matter with the real life. Thing.
I know, but you're talking with common sense. I gotta play in to what the internet's gonna say. They're gonna say, how is the studio head of Undead Lab? What did Microsoft do that he couldn't stay, that he couldn't fulfill his dream? That's what they're gonna say, right?
If you're parents getting older. If it's family's a hell of a lot more important to most people, I think, than making another video game, which you can do that from anywhere you want. And that's what we've learned in the pandemic. You can do that from wherever you want. So
probably one of the few benefits that you could lay out about that whole situation is we're seeing work culture change a lot. We actually have a story later on about, how many days of work we're seeing in Eidos Montreal, and we're seeing this. So it's going to become a much more flexible industry. Ryan, I'm sure you could speak to this as well on the front of previews, where previews for us have changed entirely, where now at least for me, I used to fly places, drive places. Now it's like, hey, do you have I'm trying to remember the name of Parsec.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we're going to stream it right
Exactly.
to your PC and you'll check it out that way. That's how I did a number of previews this year. So it just continues to be that way. Sometimes they do local installs like Battlefield, but most times now it's just stream. So we're just seeing a much more remote industry, which I think is a good thing, because I think some people work their best when they just have that freedom of schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, and salute to them. I got a chance to meet all of these wonderful team. Jeff has been awesome. Rich is been awesome. Foggy's been awesome. You know, great talent. And yeah, I remember them initially starting a university or something in New Orleans at one point. You know, and to see, listen, at the end of the day, I feel the family thing, and I feel the fact that I feel a sense of nobility with what he's trying to do as far as the games industry, as far as unionization. I know, shout out to Jason Schreier. This is something he's always been championing and talking about. And look, I like the aspect of this new development studio where you can work remotely. You don't have to be at a physical location, and maybe that tends to lean towards the future of game development. So yeah, wish him the best. See what's going on. My only question, not to feed internet trolls, was just that I was surprised that we didn't get an announcement maybe from Microsoft on who the transitionary studio head from Undead Labs is. That was my only question. But other than that, the reasons that Jeff Strain is saying, and then also he didn't say any ill will. He seems like State of Decay is in good hands. There's great talent there.
Right.
So hey, that's where I'm at. I love Undead Labs. I love State of Decay. I'm a huge fan of them. And I'm a huge fan of Jeff and that team. So wish them the best, and hopefully they succeed on that new AAA endeavor.
Absolutely. And kudos to Ryan for breaking that story. We appreciate you being here for some of this episode, for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, all of that. And we hope to get you in for a full episode one of these weeks.
Yeah, it was fun, guys. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Absolutely, man. The legendary Ryan. Before you go, I gotta give you your flowers, Ryan, man. You don't get your flowers enough. I really love what you do in the community. You know, as far as I'm concerned, you're on the Mount Rushmore for a podcast host, and I had to tell you that. You and Colin are up there. And one thing I like about what you do also for content creators of color, you're always championing that stuff. And just an honor to always podcast with you. And thank you. I mean, obviously, Maddie gave me this great opportunity to work with him at Define and Duke, but it was cool to see your co-sign, and it really resonated with me. And I want to thank you personally. And always a pleasure here. And you still have, in my opinion, one of the greatest interviews of all time. Generational Xbox One, Seamus Blackley, Peter Moore.
Oh, that's a good
Phil
one.
Smith.
That's
that is the GOAT Xbox interview, in my opinion, of all time. Gotta give it your flowers. The legendary. Now he's a Duke. He's Duke.
Yeah,
McCaffrey.
Indeed.
Very kind gentleman. Yeah, it's that's the one thing I will probably never top that at IGN. That was a lot of planets aligning, and there was like 6 months of legwork that went into that. But yeah, boy, thank you for saying that. That's that one will always be near and dear to my heart. And yeah, you've earned every opportunity you've had, and you deserve all your success. And I'm happy to see you rocking it on this show as well as Iron Lords. And thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Absolute pleasure, man. Absolute
Always
pleasure.
welcome here. Number 4. It's 2021, and Fallout 3 received a new update on Steam. Yes, really. After 13 years, version 1.7.0.4 is out, and it's a bit more substantial than you may expect. Coming in at a whopping 5.4 megabytes, this new update removes the bemoaned service, Games for Windows Live. This service closed down in July of 2014, and since then left Fallout 3 on Steam unplayable without mods. Fortunately, GOG's version of Fallout 3 Game of the Year Edition had removed this already, so there was already an alternative, albeit on a different launcher. This one's gotten a little bit more far-reaching since the news broke, because
I was just
going to say there was an impact on the modding scene. What were you about to say?
No, I'm deferring to you. I saw your Twitter. So I need these Maddie bars. I need to know what's going on. Why? Educate us on why this is so significant.
Okay.
That the evil Games for Windows Live.
I think you couldn't even play the game if you had it on Steam unless you had mods to remove it. And here's the thing. I come from a hardcore Fallout audience, so I know when I bring this up as a sticking point, they're like, just install a mod. I'm like, not everyone knows how to just do that, even with something as simple as this one. It's still, the reality is you cannot click play and fire up the game. It just sadly does not work that way. So it should. This sidesteps that. It's now like the GOG version. You can play it. However, this is why I'm still championing. You gotta re-release Fallout 3. You gotta re-release New Vegas, because under the hood, there is a multi-core issue that cannot just simply be remedied, and it's causing stability issues that people are learning about again, which has been around for about 13 years now, but I digress. What happens is, for some reason, if your computer has more than 2 cores, your game will crash frequently. There are sessions where it will run better than other times. Like my friend was playing Fallout 3 last night. He played for about 3 hours. He was good. No problems whatsoever. But there are a lot of times, like I've been playing New Vegas. I just wrapped it up, but I was playing it for a video. And let me just tell you, I feel bad for anyone who was on my Steam friends list, because it would constantly say, Robert Gorin's playing this, Robert Gorin's playing that, because that's my Steam name, by the way. Shout out to Robert Gorin, the OG detective. But anyway, it would just constantly...
That was hilarious.
It would constantly just be saying, I'm firing up games, right? And it's because it's always crashing. So that still needs to be fixed. What's also happened from this, more importantly, is for those of you who are playing Fallout 3, because I imagine if you are to this day, you're either feeling nostalgic or you've modded it, this update breaks the mods, because a lot of these mods are based off what's called the Fallout script extender. And that's cemented in the current version of Fallout 3, which rightfully so. They didn't expect them to update it. It checks notes 13 years later. So they provide this new update for it, and now Fallout script extender is out of sync with what Fallout 3 is, unfortunately, which now means that they've got to do an update on the modding end, and they didn't expect this. So some of the modders have moved on completely. They don't even mod anymore in some instances. So this could get a little hairy, but their website updated and said that they're going to be doing some type of update. They just don't know when. So it could be a while before Fallout 3 is moddable. So for those who want to dive back in, you can safely do so on Steam. You already could on GOG. But beyond that, good luck modding it, because you need script extender for a lot of the significant mods.
Wow, this is interesting. I wonder if it would be a precursor to, like you said, the eventual remaster or something. Like,
it's just weird timing, because some people were like, what do you think this is, Maddie? And I made a whole video on it, because you know me, Fallout, come on. Like, I smell the blood in the water. I'm like, here comes the shark. You know,
shark circling. Maddie circling.
I'm circling Bethesda like, so what you guys doing? So, dude,
thanks.
When it comes to Fallout 3 and this, I do think it's just really as simple of a situation as Steam just having as competitive of a version of Fallout 3 as GOG. But I keep going back to, why now then? Why was this not a priority? The service closed down in July of 2014. Why not 3 years after, 4 years after, 5 years after? And what I did was I went to SteamDB, because you know me, I'm a psychopath with this stuff. I'm like, I gotta see what's going on in the back end. New Vegas has been tinkered with slightly in the last couple of months. By the way, this is simple stuff like store tags updating, but there's motion. Fallout 4 untouched. Fallout 3, in the last like 4 or 5 months, there's been things happening. They've been going in, setting up new branches. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Why now? It was over. Most of this work came, if SteamDB is to be fully trusted, which I think right now is really the only thing we can go off of in terms of seeing what was happening on the back end.
Right.
They were working on this for a good month or so.
Okay.
I'm looking at it thinking to myself, okay, why now? It's clearly like a more high investment thing. Was there a particular reason behind this? I don't know if it's a precursor to anything, because I feel like if you were going to do that, then you should spend some time getting that multi-core fix in. Making it where it's not crashing as often. Those stability improvements are really important. It's arguably just as bad as games for Windows Live, depending on your PC. And again, there are mods to fix this too. You have to go into your Fallout Ini and update how it reads your cores. It's ridiculous. But again, the timing of this is suspicious.
Yeah, suspicious. I'm with you there. The timing. I'm with you, bro. I'm with you. You got me. You got me all in on this theory, because why now is the question, right?
Yeah, man. This is a top 3 game of all time for me. So there was a little excitement when I saw this, just because I know it's not the biggest news story, but I saw it and I went, yo, new update, Fallout 3? Are you kidding me?
Oh,
I mean,
where did
myself
smoke?
and my fellow Bethesda content creators, former and current, we all like went in, made videos on this. Mine's going up today as
Nice.
we record. I'm like, yeah,
Nice.
it's good to be back.
It's good.
I love it, man.
I love it. You got the team back together. Everybody's doing the cuts. I
Yeah,
love
dude.
it, man. This is dope. I hope so. I hope so, man.
The
I think
Last
something may be
Dance
cooking.
version of Bethesda.
Nice.
Well, we'll see how this turns out. Still, I thought it's something that was important for our PC audience who is like me. And I went out and bought Fallout 3 on GOG one time because I was like, I want to play Fallout 3 on PC. And yeah, you could only get it to run over there. So now Steam version works, but there's no Steam achievements. That's the next thing people are complaining about too. No Steam achievements. So
we need that.
We'll see in due time. For now, let's move into number 5. Forza Horizon 5 previews recently came scorching across the internet, and the reception has been strong. During the preview period, press and creators were allowed to speak with some of the team on the game. What was learned is that the open world racer took an extra year of development in its cycle compared to prior entries. This allowed Playground Games to create a substantially larger world than what would have been possible under the normal 2-year cycle. Creative director Mike Brown said that the size of the world would have been half as big if it were made in 2 years, and enables them to take advantage of the Xbox Series X. Quote, from the very start of development, we planned to take 3 years. Part of that was due to the arrival of the Xbox Series X and S, and we knew we wanted to make some big investments in our engine so that we could take advantage of those consoles. The kind of investments that we would want to probably have the kind of investments that would have probably been possible in 2 years, but that would have pushed out a ton of other things that we wanted to do. In the terms of the world design, probably would have been half the size. Art director Don Arcetta added, quote, we probably would have had half as big of a world, but also less biomes along with that, and less diversity and variety, end quote. So do you think this is going to be the standard moving forward for Forza Horizon in general? Is like, now that we've seen, the previews are strong, the world is huge. As someone who previewed it, it's pretty surprisingly big. There's a lot to do in it. Do you think that they're going to see this and go, okay, let's spend 3 years on this each time it comes around?
Maybe. I mean, they're gonna have their plate full with obviously now Fable, and they're doing other things as well, right? And we have confidence now. I saw your amazing video, sir. That when it comes to environment and graphical fidelity, Playground is just stunning right now. So yeah, I think this is I actually like to hear that they actually took the extra time, development time, to coincide with the Series X and Series S release, take advantage of the hardware. The other thing that people, I think, don't give enough credit for, as beautiful as this game looks, the fact that it's still using Unreal Engine 4 is mind-blowing to me, right? Because we know 5's on the horizon, and that Horizon 5 with that engine is going, like, I could already think about the future. So yeah, I have no problem. Take as long as you need. And I don't have no problem spacing out the releases so that you kind of miss Forza a little bit too. I don't want it to get too in a cycle, right?
Absolutely.
Kind of thing. But yeah, I loved your video. You came from the perfect perspective. The Forza hater that's coming in there. But you said it well, and I'm literally the same perspective, which is I'm not that hardcore racing guy. I'm very casual, thank God for the rewind button, as you said. It just looks beautiful. It's just like you said, the words you said best was like, it's a system showcase. This is what, you want to see what the series like, you want to see some graphical fidelity and fun and ease of access. This is the game for you. And yeah, shout out to the team, Playground, man. Very impressed with those guys.
Absolutely. They did a really good job with it. It's just impressive how good it looks. I'm usually not wowed graphically. Usually it's the art style that sticks out to me. I like the colorful, like the pixel art. But this, man, oh my gosh, it is a looker. Again, it's going to be a showcase game. We had a write-in on Defining Duke a number of weeks ago about keeping Microsoft Flight Sim installed just to show it off. It's going to be a game that person and many others are going to want to keep on the hard drive as a showcase game because it is beautiful. It can really show how incredible these games can end up looking. And you made a great point with Unreal Engine 4. I never even considered that with the future of that series. And, they're kind of sitting, it's kind of like Assassin's Creed where, they sit on certain historical periods that people have wanted them to touch on for a while. And they're like, yeah, we'll do that eventually. Like it's their ace in the hole. You got Unreal Engine 5 on the way alongside like something like a Japan petting or
yep.
Yeah, like that. Oh my God, man. If they just synchronize those, the hype for that game, I would be hyped. And I'm not a racing guy, even after Forza Horizon 5 preview. I like it. It's good. I'm going to play it. But like, I'm not hyped for it by any means. I'm not going to fool myself there.
Yeah.
But man, they said Japan. Oh my gosh.
From Tokyo Drift stat. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the night and bro, it's a gold mine. We all know it. We all know. Unreal Engine 5, man.
Yeah.
People going to throw money at the screen on that one.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Fingers crossed they one day do that because I think that would be perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
Agreed.
All right. This is number 6. The celebrations for 20 years of play with Xbox has begun. The team got things kickstarted last week with 2 new pieces of hardware. First, a new Xbox Series X controller inspired by the original Xbox debug kit. It launches November 15th for $70. On top of that is a new rendition of the Xbox stereo headset, which was revealed earlier this year. This will also be going for $70 on November 15th. Frog writes in, "Hey Dukes, with Microsoft's unveiling of their 20th anniversary controller and headset, I was wondering what both of your favorite limited edition or uniquely designed items were. This would be custom controllers, consoles, etc. Personally, I think Nintendo have always done a great job in that regard with the Animal Crossing Switch and the Link Between Worlds 3DS being a standout for me. Thank you, and I hope you both have a failed to get your console ordered kind of day."
That's foul.
Yeah, that hits a little close to home for some of us out there.
Shout out to Frog. Yeah, man. I think I said it before. For me, the Xbox One S crimson red Gears console. Yeah. I just love that thing. You press that button, it made that sound when you power it up. You made that screeching sound. You powered it off. It's just a beautiful looking console. It really, man. I love that thing.
Absolutely.
I love that thing.
Absolutely. R2D2 360. Oh my gosh, man. I still got that set up because sometimes I just like to turn it on. I'm thinking to myself, this is so fucking cool. You know, when I was in high school, it was the dream console to have. I could never get it. Didn't have the money for it. When I was able to afford it, I went, it's a little impulsive, but bye. Thank you. And
there you go.
I purchased it. Came with the C3PO controller. There's just so many little details in that console. It's one of my favorites. I also love a little bit of a throwback here. I like the Pikachu Nintendo 64.
Okay, yes. Yeah. Remember that, yes.
I do like that one quite a bit. It just, when you see someone who has, like, whether it be in a video or you see it online, someone who has a clean version of that, oh, dude, that thing pops. It looks so nice. It's not right.
I feel that. Sleek.
Yeah, Nintendo, I don't like Nintendo, but they have had a strong grip for many years, like with their limited Game Boys, Game Boy Advances, Nintendo, any of their consoles, their Joy-Cons. Like I don't like Skyward Sword. I haven't played enough of it really, so I shouldn't say I don't like it. I have no interest in it rather. But even those Joy-Cons I looked at and went, those are so nice. Like whoever's been doing this for the last 2 decades, like I hope they're getting paid well.
They're doing a good job. They got a knack for it. Absolutely. Completely agree, Nintendo.
Yeah. So with that, what do you think of what Xbox is doing? You know, we got the anniversary stuff celebrating. It's starting now.
Yes.
We're a month out, Cog, as we record this. And I don't know. I feel like there's got to be more on the way, right? Certainly if you're getting some of these little things out of the way, like use your little controller, a little headset. There's got to be more beyond this,
This the warm up. This the warm up, man. they ready. Like they're gonna hit us. In my opinion, they're gonna hit us. They're doing something that I get the vibe. Big plans. This is historic. Like think about 20 years of Xbox. If the controllers are coming now, I firmly believe big announcements or also diving into that history, diving into that, I think you're onto something with the back compat or FPS boost announcements. Let's celebrate the history. Let's get some classic stuff that you've been waiting for or wanted to know about and give them a last little push of 15, 20 game list. How they do. Like one last push to really celebrate because it makes sense. It's on timing. It's on brand. Why not, right? I'm with you there. I think we're gonna get some big announcements.
Yeah, and I'm looking now. It's on a Monday. Xbox loves their Mondays, man.
Oh, for sure.
They love their Mondays. Times out well for Duke that week as well. We get all that news our way. It's really good to hear for us. But beyond that, man, I just there's got to be more. I don't know what it is. Some people are like studio acquisition. I'm like, I don't know if that's the time. I feel like if you're going to celebrate your history, I feel like back compat's the only way.
Yeah, no, bro, and then you're on it. You know, you had the amazing that hoodie, that Xbox classic joint. You know what I'm saying? The merch is leaning that way too. You gotta celebrate the OG. You gotta celebrate the OG. You know, like I wouldn't be surprised some form of a Duke comeback. By the way, we got to Ryan called us out. We got to get this Duke control. That has to happen.
Yeah, we need to get on that. Maybe that's the thing. I thought if Xbox was going to celebrate in any way, you do your own Duke version, right? Ryan had the Hyperkin version of it, which is I think $50 on Amazon. But like Xbox should do their own official one, you know, just the sake of it.
It's funny. Yeah, it's funny you said that. I noticed the father of Xbox, the OG, was it Seamus Blackley? He's been tweeting a lot lately. Talking about some, you know, historic stuff, what happened during that era. I think he apologized because he apologized to AMD just like a couple days ago. He's just like, you know, we're so sorry. Those guys helped us with everything. And I think they went with was it NVIDIA, whoever they went with, the other chipset or whatever, and then, you know, it was just interesting. He's like apologizing to the head of AMD. What's the chick now? I forgot her name. Something Sue, I believe her name is.
I don't know.
But it's funny. So he's in this bag. I wouldn't be surprised. If, you know, some type of Duke thing or some type of classic throwback. Maybe Seamus is involved with something. Who knows?
Imagine they announced like a Banjo remake. Like that's how they, you know, just like a classic renewed. I don't know, man. I don't want to create lofty expectations for our audience or anything, but I also think it's fair. Like Xbox has had their finger on the pulse for a while now. They've sort of been hitting for the most part since I'd say that bad gameplay showcase last year. I feel like they've been good at managing expectations. They've been doing a really good job at nailing it when they need to nail it. You know, there are certain standouts, like I think Gamescom, where it's like that was just a really weird show. To me, it was the biggest standout was like, where's Halo? Why isn't it in Jeff? Platform? Yeah, like. We can go on about that, which we did. But for the most part, I think they've done a really good job where I think it's fair to have a higher expectation of them and what they're going to provide us. And especially with the way that they're bringing out controllers and headsets now, it's like this is the pre-order stuff. Like you know, get it now. Here, this is the window where people can actually hear about this thing, because when the day comes, there will be much more to talk about.
Agreed. I agree.
So we'll see what that is. For now, we move on to number 7. Square Enix-owned Eidos Montreal has made a very competitive move in the Canadian game development community, making it a much more appealing place to work at. Announced this past week was 4-day work weeks for both the Montreal and Sherbrooke studios. A blog from studio head David and Fossey provides further insight. Quote, "This initiative is another step towards the embodiment of the studio's values, building a healthy, creative, and sustainable work environment for our employees. The idea is not to condense the working hours into 4 days, but rather to review our ways of doing things and our quality time invested with the aim of working better." Eidos Montreal says that that both studios will be closed on Fridays in the next few weeks without changing the working conditions currently in place nor the salaries of employees, thus switching from a 40-hour work week to 32 hours. I thought this was significant because Montreal, big place for game development. And now Eidos Montreal is saying you only got to work 4 days here, and we're about the quality of your work. What do you think? I thought this was really surprising to see.
This is significant, you know, and shout out to Ryan. He talked about it on a podcast Unlocked with his team. And you said it best, Maddie. Like, you know, that the Canadian game scene is very competitive, right? There's a lot going on there. You know, I believe Ubisoft, I believe EA has, you know, studios there. There's a lot going on there. So, you know, first, let's just get to the meat of it. Like, it's so pro developer. It's so creating a great environment. And to be honest, I would even took the 4 days, 40 hours, and I'd be like, yeah, that's great. Yeah. You get the 3 days, you know what I'm saying? I've worked that shift before, you know what I'm saying, at IT, and I loved it. So, you know, to say that, hey, you're still going to get paid at that 40-hour rate with the 32 hours, That's kind of nice, man.
Mm-hmm.
And we're starting to see things lean this way, with this news. And now we're here. Remember, we talked about Under Labs and Jeff Strain. He's pro unionization and pro work from. I think the scope of game development is slowly changing, and this is just great to see. This is great to see. You don't want. I'm not going to say that this is going to automatically eliminate crunch, but at the end of the day, these are the kind of steps we want to see the game industry take, and I'm always for this kind of stuff. But what's your thought process hearing a 32-hour work week? Them shift.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds amazing. I do have to wonder. I'm gonna probably sound like an asshole here, but that's fine. I do wonder from a standpoint of, number one, I'm kind of surprised that Square Enix, who effectively just shopped off Crystal Dynamics to Xbox, is letting a Western studio of theirs like go ahead and do something like this. I don't get it. I don't know what's going on there. I don't get it. They just clearly either don't care or something like that. But also Eidos Montreal, like I don't think they're like a high grossing studio where they got a ton of money coming in, and they can effectively, when you remove those extra 8 hours per week, that adds up. And I just wonder how quickly they get their games done now. Those are, by the way, I'm not saying urgently I need those games. It's more so a talking point of this stretches out development a little bit more. This adds to the budget a little bit more because you're developing the game for a little bit longer. Plus, game development's already going to be taking a while. This isn't accounting for potential freelance workers that they hire to do certain things, which could maybe plug in some of those gaps, but you have to be really on your shit there. So I think this is great. And to me, the priority is keeping people healthy. As someone who consistently overworks themselves, yeah, like great. I think this is what you want. But I also just need to talk about, of course, the nature of what people kind of pay attention to these studios for, which is the games, and just know that I think it's important the developer's quality of life is the best it can be. That should be the priority. But yeah, the games are not going to be as competitive in the sense of their release timing. They may take longer. Not as competitive in the terms of quality. In fact, they may be better. But you might not see Eidos Montreal for a while after Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right. No, it's a possibility. We got to see how it affects, that longevity as far as game release, and it's just interesting. I guess if I was a fly in the room, what led them to that conclusion, right? What led them to say, "Hey, we need to cut that back" or whatever? That's the thing. I'm always going to be pro developer and pro things that benefit them, but it's rare you see stuff like this, right? So I'm very curious. Yeah, I want to see. And if it's a trend that continues with other places, will this take shape somewhere else?
We saw this at a studio, I think it was an indie studio recently. They shifted to 4-day work weeks. This is the first we've seen on a, if you will, AAA level.
Yeah.
So we're, as you said, slowly, steadily working that way. And it'll be interesting to see who follows in line. And I feel like the only way they'll follow in line is if you see people leaving for Eidos Montreal.
Yeah, good point. Yep.
It'll be really interesting. But I thought this was definitely worth talking about because it does impact the consumer in a particular way. But also, I think it's really good to know that there's companies taking care of their employees to the best of their ability, at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Last bit of news. This one, Cog, you also wrote up. Do you want to read it or shall I?
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in. So basically, Disney teases a Star Wars video game announcement for December. Disney and Lucasfilms have teased a Star Wars video game announcement as part of a publishing campaign that will reveal new Star Wars products every Tuesday for the rest of the year. An announcement in an article on the official Star Wars website, the companies have launched their Bring Home the Bounty campaign, which will see new Star Wars toys, collectibles, books, apparels, and more. While it's unclear at this point whether the announcement will contain information about an already existing game or something completely new, there are currently a number of different developers working on games set in a galaxy far, far away. With EA's exclusivities deal over Star Wars games near its end, it was announced earlier this year that Ubisoft is working on its own open world Star Wars entry. In an interview with IGN earlier this year, Senior VP of Walt Disney Games, Sean Shoptaw, explained that he and his team had met with Ubisoft Massive after Disney's acquisition of Fox, which included an already in development Avatar video game project. EA's exclusivity deal over the Star Wars franchise is set to run out. That by no means suggests the publisher is stepping away from the universe. EA CEO Andrew Wilson made very clear that Star Wars had been hugely profitable for the company and confirmed it will still be working on games set in the universe. One game we can seemingly count on from EA is Jedi Fallen Order sequel. Aside from that, Quantum Dream is also rumored to be developing its own Star Wars game, and it was revealed during Sony's PlayStation Showcase that the team is it Aspire, right?
Yes. Yep.
There we go. Yes. Gotta get correct. Fanboys are coming at me. Remaking Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic from the ground up for modern consoles. The KOTOR remake is set to release for PS5 as a console exclusive at launch alongside a PC release, though at present the game does not have an official release date. Whether or not December 14th will delve further into one of the projects above or link to something completely different is anyone's guess. So, Maddie, Star Wars video game announcement in December. What do you think? How ready are you?
Well, I'm always ready for more Star Wars. I gotta be honest. Star Wars gaming, I should say. But I find this surprising because December 8th is the Game Awards, if I'm remembering the date correctly, right? So this is taking this announcement's after the Game Awards, if I'm remembering correctly, and I'm wondering why they're making it individual. I would assume then it's something new, not something we already know. Because if it's something we already know, you would think it would be at Jeff's showcase. There's also I saw Jeff Grubb joke about it on Twitter, but it was still a good point. There is that Zynga Star Wars Galaxies game or something like that free-to-play thing that they're working on. That is still out in the wild. They did release a trailer for it in the last couple of months, and I'm wondering if that's it. Because I do think there was a bounty hunter in the trailer. I don't know. I don't want to get too galaxy brain with it, pardon the pun, but I worry a little bit about that stuff because it's so easy to get excited for Star Wars gaming, in my opinion, with KOTOR remake out there, but also the prospect of an open world Star Wars game, something we've never seen before.
Right.
I don't know if I can be excited about a Ubisoft game anymore. Speaking of that, I called myself out. This is how quickly things changed. 2 years ago, in like 2019, I made a video called Ubisoft games can be underappreciated. And wow, have the tides turned. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
I know.
Looking back now.
I know. Because I remember watching a video from my buddy. I was like, he's right. Like there are some ones that they make like old, some current ones that are like junk food. And I was about it, but then it got tired really fucking quick.
Really fast.
So
really
I don't know. My excitement for a Ubisoft massive third-person shooter open world Star Wars game, I imagine soured on it a bit. So if it's that, I'm gonna be like, all right, cool. What about you?
Yeah, we're gonna see. This is very surprising to me. I did not expect this. Especially after the Quantic Dream one. We obviously Ubisoft Massive one. Obviously, we know EA is gonna eventually do a Fallen Order 2, but I didn't expect anything so quickly. Maybe next year. Like now, it felt like quick. So I don't want to get too excited. I just hope it ain't, like we said, some goofy sideshow, mobile or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't, want to get too crazy, but I do think you're on to something with Game Awards, because Game Awards, I believe, is December 9th. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah.
It's 9th.
December 9th. Yeah. So timing fits.
Yeah, like a reveal and then the full reveal December 14th. I mean, that's what's interesting about gaming now is I remember when I first really started getting into YouTube and doing news coverage, like that time of year was dead. January, February were dead. We're really starting to fill out the calendar where there's something to talk about every day at this point.
I agree.
So much.
I totally agree. I'm so used to December, nothing is supposed to happen.
Right. We got Halo.
I remember those days. Yeah. Now Halo, this, that. And then also, when it also flipped for me, it was about 2017 when the Switch came out. March. Like March being this big thing now. You can release the console at launch, you can release AAA, like this new thing that, so it's like almost like every month of the year is always something going on now. Like the news cycle is robust now for sure.
Absolutely. What do you think the odds are of a Jedi Fallen Order 2? Because we know Jason Schreier put it in one of his articles a while back. He was like, there's a sequel coming. It did it exceptionally well, so I expected nothing less. But do you think this could be the time to announce that?
Let's do the timeline. When
2019 it came out. End of 2019.
I guess, I mean, it's possible. It's possible to announce. I don't know if we're obviously ready, but it's possible. It did well for them. The other ones, it's on Game Pass. I like Jedi. So you talking Respawn? I ain't gonna say no.
I got a Galaxy Brain prediction that's come
Let's
to mind
go.
here, right? This is for the Bring Home the Bounty campaign. We know the Book of Boba is coming out in December. Remember that leaked Mandalorian game we were talking about? I'm wondering. Yeah.
Lockhart, get me. Lockhart, get me. You know what to do. Bro, I've been waiting for that one. That's the one I'm waiting for.
It's time.
Don't get me Maddie. That's my heart right there. What?
Like Ryan said gracefully before he exited, it's like a planets aligning kind of moment there where it's a bounty campaign. We saw the leak. We have Book of Boba. You dropped that Mandalorian announcement because I'm thinking, to me, Jedi Fallen Order is more of a Star Wars Celebration announcement. I feel like that's where it fits.
Bounty hunter.
Yeah,
bro, you may be onto something.
That or it's the Zynga game.
It's the Zynga game. Yeah, we're gonna get our feelings hurt. It'd be the Zynga game.
Yeah, like what's that game even called? Zynga Star Wars. It's called Hunters. Yeah, that could be just. Everyone be wary.
Yeah.
Star Wars Hunter is an upcoming competitive arena combat game being developed by Zynga for Switch, iOS, Android, set to release in 2022. And look, it's called Bring Back the Bounty. The name is called Star Wars Hunters. We got a Welcome to the Arena trailer a month ago. It's on COG. It's literally full or it's empty right now. We're looking at a gas tank. It's one end to the other.
Yeah, bro. I mean, it most likely would be that. But listen, I'm holding out hope, man. I am holding out Mandalorian. Bro, that's the moneymaker. That's the one. And if the dream comes true, Xbox, you better get yourself attached to that. Pop culture. Popular. Let's go. You better be a part of the conversation, even if it's multiple. They better be on the platform.
What you did with Far Cry, just make it like this is the main console. Same thing with Battlefield. This is the main console. It's
marketing rights, right? Do something.
Yeah,
right?
You just attach yourself to that popular thing, please. The ego, it needs to go.
Agreed.
All right, that's the news for this week. Now we move on to our Game Pass pick of the week. Ryan's not here to do it,
but he did say it. He did say,
Back for Blood. Can I defer to you for this because I was going to say that seems like the most obvious pick right now.
Sure.
We didn't prepare for how it would end up, but do you want to talk a little bit more about Back for Blood and your experience with it?
Man, it's so much fun. I mean, I'm biased. I'm such a Left 4 Dead fanboy, but let's get the negative out the way first. Sure. They have to address single player, right? Because from my understanding, progression and achievements are not moving forward, and that's bad. That's bad. That cannot be happening on us for single players that want to just do it that experience. But and also, I don't know if you saw my tweet, but when I booted it up, I got this like disclaimer, like, "Oh, just so you know, your party chat is going to be recorded and this, that, and the third." I'm like, interesting. Now, probably most people do that.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, so I was like, most gamers do that in the cross-play space now, I guess. But it was just interesting that they were very transparent to us. Aside from all of that, the game, it is a romp. It is a romp. I got the homies together. Shout out to my boy Gaming Forte. Shout out to Demon, you know what I'm saying, my boy Revos. And we were just rocking, man. What I love about, the reason why I love it so much is that what makes Left 4 Dead so fun, and now Back for Blood, the makers of it, is that I love the ammo economy. And it's like, okay, guys, what you got? I got to snap you. If you find ammo, let me know. I need this, that, third. Same thing with the epic attachments for the weapons and stuff like that. Right. I love that aspect. And I love actually friendly fire. You just can't go willy-nilly, just, stop shooting me. And then the banter that the characters have with each other.
It was so good in the...
good. I forgot the chick's name. And if, she gets touched by the zombies, she says like off-color things like, "Oh, what are you, a politician?" And I'm like,
oh my God.
Yeah, like it's off the chain. Like the characters really shine with the personalities. They got the cinematics. I love the card system. You know, they've got those different little modifiers the game try to throws at you. It's just what I like about it too is from instance to instance, no game is the same. The way the monsters spawn, the way the different enemy types come at you, and you really got to knuckle down. It adds a freshness to the game. So we got, you know, almost through the first act together. I wanted to stay up all night playing. I'm like I got work today. I got to defy the Duke to my kid.
I remember this because you and I both said, like, yeah, we got to get up early for this episode, but bro, we're going to stay up late anyway, aren't we? I remember, like, I messaged you at 5. I was like, yeah, hitting the sheets now, but just had a random thought about, like, and that's why I messaged you about the Ryan McCaffrey thing. I was like, maybe we hold him for a week just to get him in a more exciting week. And then I woke up and I think I had a message from you at 6 a.m. You're like,
at 6 in the morning.
Yeah, you're like, you're good, bro. I was like, bro, it's 6?
Bro, it was that night, bro. We had that good session. I didn't want to stop. I'm like, yo, this is so much fun. Complete ramen, friends. Back for Blood. I think this is going to do really well in Game Pass. You know, it's the perfect Game Pass game. It's just now continue the content, continue everything they need to do. And I know Ryan's a big fan of it as well. And he was talking about it on Podcast Unlocked. And he's going to dive in. You saw his backdrop. He's about to dive in. That Left 4 Dead is a cult classic. And the fact that it's not on back compat, this generation will now experience why we love that game so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm very excited to dive into it. Probably this weekend. I got a busy weekend ahead of me, so I don't know. I might be very late to Back for Blood. I had a faux pas. They gave me a review code on Friday. First time this has happened since, by the way, Dragon Age Inquisition. So 7 years. This review code ended up in my junk mail, which I typically check. I didn't check the junk mail that weekend. Yeah, so I missed it, and I had a window to play it over the weekend. Not much was happening. I did lose power all day Saturday, so I guess it was just not meant to be. But I digress. It was something that I'm probably going to be late to. So I'm excited to dive in when the opportunity presents itself. And I'm curious how, with the full game now, one of the things I was wondering is progression with the cards and all that stuff, and how you get into those higher difficulties. Because when we tried Back for Blood on those very, very high difficulties, like, we got stomped right away. And I was thinking to myself, okay, you need certain cards for this. I wonder how it's going to play out now. That's the one thing I really want to gun for and lay my hands on is what's the end game, the deep game, if you will, like, because some people complained about World War Z for that. They were saying how, you know, to play those high difficulties, you had to grind a lot to get to the point where you couldn't. I'm wondering if they're going to do the same here with Back for Blood or not, because you need to grind for something in the terms of progression. So we'll see with that. I'm very curious about that. But thank you so much for filling in there.
Yeah, absolutely. No worries.
Let's do the 5 final questions to wrap up this episode. First one comes from Derek O. Greetings, Dukes. I just spent the weekend blasting through Metroid Dread and loved every second of it, but it got me thinking about how the Metroidvania genre doesn't get a lot of AAA love. Now that Ori is done, if Xbox were to take one of its IPs and give it the AAA Metroidvania treatment, which one do you think would translate best? Or do you think they just bring back ReCore?
Good question, Derek. I was thinking about it. It's actually the no-brainer one. I was actually thinking about Halo.
Really?
Yeah, because let me tell you what. I've been playing a lot of Metroid Dread. I love it, right? And I look at, you know, main character, you know, Metroid. And I like, you know, Sue, and, you know, she's got the vibe. And here's the thing. I'm looking at all the abilities in Halo Infinite, and I'm like, grappling hook. You know what I'm saying? It's not like Master Chief. You know what I'm saying? He can't really fly, so he can platform, right?
Where your head's at. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't know how you would make some self-contained story saying that he would have to be doing something, or if you're going to include Master Chief at all, maybe some other.
Would it have to be like an ODST kind of story?
Yes, like an ODST, or you could spin off, right? And I could see it. You know what I'm saying? Listen, they did Halo Wars before. No one thought, you know, that was gonna pop. I remember there was another Halo game. I'm gonna say, was it a twin stick shooter or something?
Yeah, Spartan Assault, twin stick shooter.
Spartan Assault. Yeah. They've played with Halo in different spaces. Again, you know, there's other choices, of course, but I can see a scenario where they can plug Master Chief in that point, or you know, a Halo character, someone in the universe with Spartan armor in there. But what do you got? I know mine's not the most original, but what do you have?
I have a little bit of an interesting one.
Ooh.
I'm gonna say Doom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just feel like, again, this is about tool sets, and your thoughts on Halo sort of made me solidify that, because I was jumping around in my head a little bit when I read this, thinking like, what would I pick? And sometimes, by the way, full transparency with the audience, sometimes I really like the questions, and I'm like, I'm gonna get an answer. Like I'll think of it later, you know. I want to have that conversation. And your talk on Halo got me thinking, you know what? Doom's got a pretty cool tool set.
Oh, yeah.
And the thought process of forcing that into a 2D plane and kind of taking like a Katana Zero approach to it, of like speed, very visceral combat.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's something there. Would that be the best way to play Doom? No, I think it's best in a 3D space. But I think a AAA Metroidvania Doom spinoff could be actually really cool. A lot of people have brought up Recore recently, I've seen, and I remember when I reviewed that, I did not like Recore at all.
I did not like Recore.
And again, this is a huge Mega Man fan. I believe this came from the
from the creator.
Yeah, and so like it was kind of disappointing. And you know, for me, my answer to this would always be Mega Man.
Yeah,
always. But in the terms of Xbox IP, I do think Doom could do something. I just wish that they bought Moon Studios, although they've expressed no interest in being purchased. I just wish they could get Ori permanently, and just,
I know,
it makes too much sense. But I respect their willingness to be independent. I think it's a good thing. But yeah, Doom's going to be my selection here.
No doubt.
Because like I think of, for example, the shotgun grappling hook and paintball. I'm just like, wait, there's so much here. So,
and the visceralness with the killing, like it would fit for sure.
Ilya Starevarov writes in, "Hey Duke boys, where is Monolith Productions? I thought their Shadow of Mordor game was a standout title early last gen. And while the sequel had its issues, it was also very good. Here we are 4 years later, and not even a rumor. Even with all of WB selling and acquisition rumors, nobody brings up Monolith. The latest news about them seems to be the tangential news of WB finally securing the Nemesis system patent. So my question is, what do you think they're working on? And for fun, what would you like to see them work on? Have a 4 p.m. Friday conference call kind of day."
I like that. Oh man, Monolith. I haven't thought about that. It's a good question.
There was
what's up
with the GeForce Now leak. There was a Middle Earth.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah,
there was a war or something. Like it was a shadow of something, or like it was there was a game. There was a Middle Earth game that leaked, and it was in the Shadow of Mordor universe. I'll get the name in a sec, but that I think they're working on one.
There you go, and you know how I feel about that leak. So I'm with that leak. I think that leak is legit for the most part. A lot of placeholder stuff. So yeah, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I liked I've always liked them, and I like that to me that last gen they were the only one, in my opinion. I think me and Attic talked about this. Like when I remember last gen, I said, what do we want to see from gaming to change gaming? And I always felt the Nemesis system was like the right step in the direction. You know, you you have those relationships with the enemies, and they remember and stuff like that. I always thought that was a cool system. And yeah, I agree, Elliot. The sequel had its issues, but it was still solid. But I want, like, to me, I felt like the next step was AI as far as advancement, and I felt that was a step in the right direction for Mongo. So I want to see what they do next, and if they're working on another Mordor game, by all means, I'll jump in there.
It's called Fight for Middle Earth. That was the thing that leaked in GeForce Now. Now there is the possibility. I want to call this game out because it's we just recorded an episode of Back Compat Games. This was in my honorable mention list if we were like running out of time on the episode. There's a series called Battle for Middle Earth. It's a Lord of the Rings RTS game, and it's on the 360. It's really good, and it's possible that Fight for Middle Earth. This could be Shadow of or Middle Earth, Fight for Middle Earth. That wouldn't make any sense, right? So I don't know if they do Shadow of Fight for Middle Earth. That wouldn't make any sense either, right? So I'm thinking that this could be an entirely new thing, separate from the Shadow of series, which would be kind of surprising to see. But I would love it because growing up, Middle Earth games were huge for me. I played Two Towers. I played Third Age. I played so many. Return of the King was a great movie tie-in game. There were so many great Lord of the Rings games. I thought the Shadow of series was fantastic. I got to play Shadow of War. So I should really say I loved Mordor. I thought it was a really good game, right? It was the free flow combat, familiar Ubisoft open world, but like there was enough new elements in there to make it digestible. Ending sucked, but beyond that, really, really good game. And I'd love to see more of it. And yeah, Elia is entirely correct that really the only news has come out is that they've locked down the Nemesis patent. So you're only going to see it in these games, which I guess mission accomplished. I'm a little more excited for them because I know it's the only time I'm going to see Nemesis system and not see it really be evolved upon. But I do remember Carrick and I talking about the Nemesis system, and he made a really good point that it's kind of broken in Shadow of War. And there were like a lot of encounters that he was having that made zero sense, where people would like recognize him when he never encountered them, or call back to killing him when that never occurred, or they'd have like the wrong name, wrong position, that type of stuff. So he did have a pretty shitty experience with it that I wanted to remind the audience of, just to balance things out.
No, fair enough.
Josh Correa is next. Hey, Dukes. With Xbox starting to flex its performance muscles with Dolby Vision, I have a question about another hopeful boost. When it comes to Bethesda modding on Skyrim, it's currently limited at 5 gigabytes and Fallout 4 at 2 gigabytes. Do you think we might see an increase in size to these modding limits? Do you think we can possibly see Beyond Skyrim, Sky Oblivion, Skywind, Fallout London, and other massive Bethesda gaming mods on Xbox Series consoles in the future?
Defer to you, sir.
Yes. So, I picked this one because I know with like the re-release of Anniversary Edition for Skyrim, and there's going to be a reignited interest in modding for sure for console users. And one thing a lot of people don't know is that these limits are dictated by the console manufacturers. They are not chosen by Bethesda. It is by Xbox. It is by PlayStation. It's why when Bethesda was having a big issue with console mods on PlayStation, they were very quick to throw PlayStation under the bus, sort of as a scapegoat, because they could not do the simple things that even Xbox was doing. So new assets, all of that stuff was not possible. So the mods on PlayStation for consoles are not bad in terms of who makes them, but they're bad in the sense of exciting new additions to your game. Just go ahead and look, compare and contrast. It is a night and day difference. But the reason that they're limited is because of the console manufacturers. So it is possible we could see an increase in modding limits, but you have to remember that this is calling power from the console that's reserved for other things. So there's much more that gets impacted when you allow games to borrow more power, depending on how much you're loading in. There's something there that has to be allotted, which takes a little bit more consideration than people are expecting. So does that mean that we could see these very large scale, exciting mods like Skyrim or Beyond Skyrim, Sky Oblivion, Skywind, etc.? My answer to that is no. Number one, I'm friends with a lot of modders. They've said a lot of times it's just a pain in the ass to bring these mods to consoles. And when you look at something like Beyond Skyrim or Sky Oblivion, these truly expansion sized, sometimes full game sized add-ons, to then bring it over to console where it's not really supported with the file size limits and much more that goes beyond that, it just will likely never happen. And it's a sad situation where if you want to play these, you got to play them on PC. It's just
it makes sense.
It's just that. So, it really doesn't go beyond that. Sadly, it's a boring answer, but it's the only answer.
Yeah, I defer to you, man. That definitely makes perfect sense, and that's why they probably set these console size restrictions. As far as what they could bring,
I'm sure they could increase them a little bit, but not so much that you're going to get those large scale mods. Like for example, I could see Fallout 4 balancing out to 5 gigabytes like Skyrim, but also those are two drastically different games. Skyrim is a 2011 game. Fallout 4 is a 2015 game. There could be something there under the hood that if they add even an extra 100 megabytes, they're like, oh God, everything's falling apart. So we'll see. I definitely wouldn't be surprised though if they increased it on the Fallout 4 end of things, but I think 5 gigabytes on Skyrim's the most they'll do.
Got you. Fair.
Christian Turnball is our next write-in. Dearest Matthew and Lord Cog, like the winds bring the rains to satisfy the crop's thirst, we have again had our spirits dashed by the one they call Ubisoft. They hold our beloved General Fisher in the stockades with little hope of release. Lieutenant Raygun is putting together a daring rescue to release the general, but it could be folly. Gentleman and lord, dost thou think all hope is lost? Will General Fisher ever return to us? Signed, Lieutenant General Duck Nukem.
Yeah, it ain't looking good. Listen, man, you know how I feel. I wish Ryan was here for this one because he and I share this, that love me some Sam Fisher, man. Love me some Splinter Cell.
Right.
And yeah, Ubisoft ain't they out here being so disrespectful.
It's at the point where you deserve it.
It's so like you see him pop up in some mobile game foolishness. You see him pop up as a side story in Ghost Recon, Wild, whatever. And I'm like, come on, y'all. Y'all know what people want. But Ryan said it best on, like I said, recent podcasts a lot. It's just that actually, besides him, shout out to him, Paris, and I believe Elena Pierce. There was a thread going on maybe like 2 days on Twitter about this.
Really?
Like Sam Fisher, Splinter Cell. And I think Ryan made a good point. It was like, as much as we want it, with the way Ubisoft is constructed now, live service, would we really want it? Right?
Yes. Okay. You beat me to my point. Yes.
Bro, see, you young Ryan. See, young Ryan was thinking like, so you the next. You the next. It makes sense. You're synergized, right? So, like, the end of the day, it's like, as painful as it was to read Ryan say that, I was like, damn, he right. He right. You think it would be what we want, but not the Ubisoft, the way they're constructed right now. They don't believe in that model. And the way Splinter Cell is constructed, there's no monetization model. There's no massive. It's literally from a game with it's really a weird game with a AAA budget that doesn't fit any of today's monetization sensibilities. So sadly, it pains me to say it, I just don't see them do it. The only hope I would have is that, my long shot hope was that there were rumors that Ubisoft would go in bed with Microsoft as far as like how EA did with Game Pass and that kind of thing. And if that was to happen, I don't even know if it's possible. Can they, Microsoft pay for the exclusive IP? I don't know the inner workings of it. That's the only hope, because Ubisoft themselves, they are literally trolling us at this point, bro.
Yeah.
They are trolling us that, we are not doing that. But you're going to get this mobile game. You're going to get them in the corner. What you think? Go ahead, man. What you think?
It's hard to add anything beyond what you've stated. You did it perfectly. And I think that if you want Ubisoft to make a Splinter Cell game, you're thinking very short-sighted. It's just... I like some of their games. Like, I like what they've done with Assassin's Creed. I know many haven't, but I've enjoyed the last 2 Assassin's Creed games that have come out. But I look at something like Far Cry, I look at the Ghost Recon Boring Lands, I look at the Division to some extent nowadays. And
did you say Ghost Recon Boring Lands? Did you? That was wild disrespect.
That was just like a flyby. That was a drive-by.
I caught that. I was like, oh, a shot.
I'm sorry. That's a game that I think is it's in the park of Godfall, just passionately mediocre is how I look at it. And they have these moments, right? Like, again, I like what they're doing with Assassin's Creed. I respect the old fans who are like, I don't like how they've changed it. They've walked away from the Assassin's roots. I agree. But there was a time where when they were doing that over and over, when we got to like Syndicate, for me, I was like, yo, this is so boring now. To get off topic a little bit, shout out to Unity. Shout out to AC Unity. Did not get enough love once they fixed it. It was, I think, where the franchise should have headed. It just, that launch was so disastrous, understandably so. People were pissed. It still got issues, but...
Didn't they fix it, though, recently?
They fixed it.
I haven't gone back to it.
They fixed a lot of it. I recommend it to people. If you have, like, 10 bucks, it's co-op. It's got a great open world. It's got assassination-based missions with lots of ways to go about it. It's where Assassin's Creed probably should have gone. And I think if it didn't fail technically as horribly as it did, they probably would have taken that direction. But they ended up making an RPG series. And as an RPG guy, I'm like, hey, this is pretty good. But back to my original point. They've made so many of these games, and The other one standing out to me is their help with Mario and Rabbids. They did a fantastic job with that.
Yes.
That was original, new, refreshing. That's what I want to see from Ubisoft, but that's not what they're providing. And now they've announced Assassin's Creed Infinity. It's going to be this live service platform with constant additions to it. So my question to the audience is, I understand where Christian is coming from. Why do you want these people making your Splinter Cell game? They've disrespected you enough. They're going to do it again when they make that game, because they're going to. But you're not going to get, like, even in 2013 when they did Splinter Cell Blacklist, which was kind of on the level of Dishonored level gameplay freedom, you're not going to get that from them nowadays. You're just not. Right. You're going to get something somewhere that comes up short or is bloated or is monetized. That's just how Ubisoft is. And I think the only reason they didn't do it with Mario and Rabbids is you got Nintendo in there who's like, hey, that's not what Mario's about. And Mario doesn't need that to make money. And it's true. But beyond that, like they are such a company that to me has quickly become far gone. And they can easily return, right? And hearing some turnover with the internal staff, I think in the next like half a decade, we'll have a better idea of how the impact was there. Because we've seen game pitches that we don't know how those pitches would have turned out, but that were against the Ubisoft formula of checklist open worlds and all that stuff. Yes. That were rejected. But now with turnover internally, maybe we'll start to see those come out from them. But that games take time to make. And so that's me playing devil's advocate with myself. Right now, they need to earn that trust. Even something that, sorry, I'm rambling here, but even something that is new for them. I want to know if you agree with this. Have you played Immortals Phoenix Rising?
I played. Actually, no, I didn't play. I've seen it though. Okay. I mean, it looked good though. It looked good. I didn't just play it. It
reviewed phenomenally, and not that it shouldn't have, but it was a new IP, a brand new IP. Yes, and I think about 10 of those mechanics came from Assassin's Creed and Far Cry, but people were praising it for being something new. And I'm like, take the blinders off. They are recycling to you the same shit. And by the way, game development's a lot of recycled assets. That's fine. But these are mechanics, defining features that people have celebrated. And it's just like, dude, it's a new art style, and it's effectively an Assassin's Creed game at this point in time. That's my example of look what they did to a new IP. It's not a bad game. Just like I think most of their games aren't bad. Like I didn't give Far Cry a crappy review because I thought it was bad. I gave it a crappy review because it's the same shit again. And I'm tired of that. So do people really want them to make this open world stealth Splinter Cell game that they'll absolutely do? I don't know why. Like at this point, people just want the satisfaction of them to announce it. Beyond that, though, I don't think it's necessary.
I think you're on fire because shout out to Jazz because he was on Xbox 2. Shout out to Rand as well. I know Rand doesn't get the love he deserves. He thinks we love Rand. We love Rand out chop liver. He calls himself like he's the man too.
No, we love Rand.
Yeah, we love Rand. So basically, Jez went on the rant of all rants on Ubisoft. Whoa. It was so wild. I was like, he might get blacklisted. But he was telling the truth. He was just like, look, I am tired of this soulless assembly line style thing. And he literally was using examples that you use, and he went in on Far Cry and stuff like that as well. And it's just one of those things. Now, obviously, to play devil's advocate, I believe the Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, the lead dev, whatever, is back in the building at Ubisoft now. So that's okay, maybe a little hope, not getting too crazy with it. But yeah, I'm with you. It's just, the last question I have before we move on is that are the Splinter Cell games in Backward Compat?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. That to me is like
that's another one.
That to me is the part that really frustrates me because it's like it's bad enough you ain't gonna make a new one. Can we at least go back to the old ones that you don't want to? Because if I recall, I don't think
Blacklist is on. It says Xbox One,
right? But I don't think like
old
ones. The first one
was it Chaos Theory, like a big one for Xbox.
Chaos Theory was fire for that's not on. I'm like, where is the back compat? Why disrespect the legacy? Like, why don't you want to even do that? That to me is egregious. Because you can say, okay, you know what, guys, we ain't gonna make it, but hey, you guys love it so much. Here you go, whatever. And it's just like, because clearly they're not gonna repackage it and remaster it.
Pandora Tomorrow, Xbox One X Enhanced.
Okay, Pandora's Tomorrow's there?
Yeah, I'm looking at Double Agent now. Double Agent is available on Series X.
Okay, I stand corrected. I just wanted to make sure that these games are there, because I'm just like, if they're not, that to me is like criminal, kind of thing. But
let's see here, the original Splinter Cell, enhanced Xbox One X.
OG? Yeah. How come when I was searching, I couldn't find it?
I think it might be the 360 ones. Like, let's see here, Double Agent. I'm curious about Double Agent. Double Agent is Series X. What the fuck's going on?
Wait, what's going on? Because I could not find these joints. Maybe I got to do a search. Maybe they're not on the Series X.
No, they got Ubisoft on the cover. They should be listed.
And they have Series XS enhanced?
One X enhanced.
One X enhanced.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Splinter Cell Conviction. See if that's there.
Let's go. Yeah, do Conviction.
Yeah, let's see here. Conviction is available on Series X, Xbox One.
All right, I stand corrected. I apologize.
No, you're good.
I thought I was buzzing.
Here's the thing, though. I almost don't blame you, because you would think with the way people are crying about this that it's not available anywhere else. And I get people want the new thing. I screech on this show about Fallout and KOTOR. I am not acting like I don't. I'm not acting like I'm above you. I'm just saying, be careful what you wish for is my passing concluding comment. Be careful what you wish for, because number one, let's say this game, you don't like it. It does really well.
Right.
And that's the future of Splinter Cell now. So if they do an open world kind of diluted stealth experience with checklist objectives, yeah. Sorry, that's it. That's what they're going to be doing from then on forward. So
I agree.
Just be careful. Be careful, everyone.
I agree. No. Your apps. Hold on. This is so weird. I'm doing it on the Xbox app, and I see when I search, but then when you try to actually go to download it, I'm getting a oops. Look like you can't do it.
Really?
Bro. All right. I see Splinter Cell. Let me see Blacklist. Download. Okay, Blacklist lets me download the console. You're absolutely right. But Splinter Cell OG, the like first Pandora one tomorrow. Let's see. Double Agent will not allow me. See, I'm literally on the Xbox.
Yeah, but it'll let you the other. Interesting. So, okay, maybe it's available to put your disc in and play.
Possibly.
Maybe
Conviction, download the console. Let's see. Double Agent, no. See, there's certain ones that give you the download the console option. See, maybe it's what you said. Maybe there are if you have the physical discs for them, they that's probably what it is, and it allows you to do it.
That's very strange then.
And then for some, maybe they have a digital download counterpart. But I'm literally on the Xbox app right now, and I cannot download the OG Splinter Cell Xbox OG one. They won't allow me, but
okay,
it is what it is.
Interesting. I'm sure the audience will have some comments on that.
They'll correct me.
Yeah, corrections. I think that'll be a good follow up to have. So for anyone who knows anything, feel free to write in on that. Let's move on to our last write in for this episode. Owen. Hey Dukes, in recent conversation with some gaming friends of mine, we talked about how little the majority of us are using Game Pass. Personally, I have realized how little I use it. And when my 3 years runs out, I'll probably let that membership lapse and only pick it up during major releases. My question is, am I likely in the minority of hardcore gamers? I personally think I just own so many games that I don't go to the well of Game Pass as often as I do with other media services like Netflix, Hulu, etc., where I don't personally own that much type of media. Will this hurt Game Pass in the long run after that sweet $1 per month upgrade wears off? We start paying full price for the service. Thanks, and have a mundane day, Owen. Thank you, Owen. Appreciate you.
Yeah, shout out to Owen.
Is he in the minority?
I don't know. It's a good question. My gut says yes, because, when he says he's a hardcore gamer, he pretty much picks up a lot of games already. And I think the hardcore gamers, like ourselves sometimes, we have everything. And we don't necessarily, some people feel like they don't necessarily need it because they already have the games they have. But I look at the majority, and I look at the casual, and I look at the guy that may buy 2-3 games a year total, right? So for a service like Game Pass to that guy, it's going to hold more benefit, because it's like, okay, especially if those games, those 2 to 3 games that he planned on buying for the year are in the service, then it makes sense for him to maintain the service. So that's how I look at it. And then the second part of what he was saying, as far as the $1 deal thing, I think that part is a little overrated because I think like everyone's acting like everyone is on this $1, like the entire, you know what I'm saying? 20, whatever it's 18. Let's say it was 18 million, whatever it is, the number is. I know we still don't know for sure. You know, Take-Two CEO talk about 30 million. I don't know what the number is. Microsoft has not said it. And Phil has said publicly last we reported it was 18. So I'll just defer. I'll defer to Grubb. Yeah, that was the PR speak. They're probably ready to announce the number when they're ready.
Media training.
Exactly. Shout out to the media training he was on. But we had Grubb on, and Grubb said he thinks it's in Jez probably, you know, maybe that 23 or whatever. But anyway, my point being is that I do not believe all of those millions are on the $1 plan. And I think that's a lot of things going on. I think that is like a deal to get people in, what is it, 3 to 6 months or whatever it is.
Right.
But I do feel a lot of people are not, that's not the majority. That's just my feeling. I don't have the data. I'm just telling you what I'm speculating. But yeah, I you know, it is an interesting question. I don't think it's an illegitimate question.
Right.
And it's up to Microsoft to continue to prove value in the service with the games that they have.
Yes.
So,
yes. And like Jeff said, they got millions of dollars just sitting to the side, ready to spend on Game Pass, and they're going to have to spend it. And they should, because as you mentioned, to keep the service, you know, keep people in there month over month, you need to keep announcing stuff. Like that's just the reality. Like that is a hungry child that needs to keep eating constantly. Yes. So that means that I think personally, I have friends who subscribe and unsubscribe for major releases. Like they'll sign up and they'll have Back 4 Blood there. They'll play it both later. Okay, moving on, save my money. Because some people just don't have the money to keep it month over month. With that said, I think what they need to do is just, back to my original point, keep boosting that library up. The reason for that is because if they do that and you're signing up for that one game, you got to scroll through that whole library to get to that one game. And you might pass something that you go, what is that? What is that? Exactly. And now you're starting to feel that Game Pass fever that everyone's got at least once, where you're like, I'm going to download this and that. And you start to realize how much more you get into that way. But I definitely have buddies who have, you know, 100% just signed up for a month, 2 months, and then pocketed their cash for another 4 months and then signed back up again. Whether it be $1 or $15, doesn't matter to them. They're like, you know, I'm not going to pay collective $60 when I'm not using the service. I'm going to pay for it when I'm using it. So I think that this is totally reasonable. It's the same thing with Netflix and Hulu. I canceled my Netflix subscription a while ago. Really, like I haven't been a Netflix subscriber for years, but you know, it's like one of those things where I was like, I'm not really using this, and I'll sign up if there's something that catches my eye. Nothing really has, but I also don't watch a lot of TV, so there's that.
That's true. No doubt. Yeah, I mean, good points. I think for your friend's case and for the instances we're talking about, that's why it's imperative on them to acquire studios, right? To have that game release cadence. I believe they made statements in the past. I don't know if it's like a quarter or a major game.
One big release like per quarter.
Right. And if you do that, combined with these third-party releases that we know they have money allocated for, and you had, like I said, October, we got Back 4 Blood this month. In November, you got Forza. December, you got it. So that there's always a reason. And to your last point, I think is great, is once you get in there, because I want to shout out my boy, Wilhelm Scream. He's a content creator, big content creator. And, you know, he's a Destiny guy. We're trying to get him to play. And I was like, yo, there's a reason to get the console now. You get your Series X, you get the Game Pass, Destiny's in there. And now he's in. He's like, yo, I didn't know that. I was a big Halo guy. I didn't know all the Halos is in there. Yo, I'm a big F1 guy. I used to love that game. And I'm like, yeah, and he's playing these other games. Yep. So it happens. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. It definitely happens. So it's on Microsoft.
Absolutely.
To keep that going.
Yeah. Will it hurt it in the long run? I don't know, because they're going to invest. They're not making a lot of money up front, if any at all. But I think because you got Microsoft at your back, you can do that. And not only that, but once you get to that set like 100 million area that they're clearly trying to aim for, it's going to be a cash printing machine at that point. They're going to make their money back so fast on the deals they've made. And again, some of these deals that they make have probably worked out in Microsoft's benefit. Like, oh, we got the big pop, the big marketing for Game Pass with this big announcement. And maybe they did a per download deal with someone. And that game didn't get downloaded all that much. And it's like, okay, well, we got the marketing attention for Game Pass, but it did all right. Like we got 1 million downloads, so we'll pay them $1 million. Let's say it's $1 a download or something like that. It's like, okay, cool. That's all there is to it. So yeah, it's I think they'll be fine. I don't think Game Pass is going anywhere. It's I think that'll be more solidified in people's minds when you see it on like TVs and phones and all that stuff. Like as an app, by the way, like a dedicated smart TV app. That's where I think people are going to start to be like, okay, I don't think you're going anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. It's their long-term play. And like I said, they're fully committed. Sideshare, the team, those guys, they're committed long-term. And once you see big Microsoft involved in Xbox, that's what you want to see. That to me is a good sign. So
absolutely.
See what happens.
That's all we've got for this episode. Cog, it's been a fantastic one with Ryan joining us. Shout out again to Ryan if he ever listens back. We thank you for joining us, Ryan. It was great to meet you, talk with you, get your insight on everything, and hopefully we'll get him back for a full episode soon enough.
Yes.
We'll make sure to do that for the audience. But Cog, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, man. Fantastic episode. Ryan was just amazing. Love to get his knowledge on topics. And then you had your young Ryan haircut today, so I was really appreciating that.
Those comments are about to be brutal, bro. Those comments are about to be brutal. I already know. Like,
part of me want to do hashtag young Ryan.
We can do that.
I didn't want to do you like that. I was like, yeah, maybe too much for him.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. I don't want it to come across egotistical on my behalf, but as long as it doesn't, it was just hashtag DD young Ryan. Like,
yeah, young Ryan, man. Young Ryan DD.
Ryan's going to be looking at his mentions and be like, what's going on, man?
He knows. He had the bit, about the resemblance. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So salute to that. I just thought it was fun. Look, man, you're the young beast as far as I'm concerned. You're the next, you know what I'm saying, the next class, the next, you know what I'm saying? And
hopefully.
Hopefully. It's definite, man. Come on, man.
Never know.
You that dude. Come on. I told you already. I told you. You're that guy right now. So it's just super, super humble to podcast with you. And
thank you.
Obviously, Ryan got a chance to meet his future.
Yeah, I was going to say, meet his son.
Meet his son, that's going soon, Hey, look, man, I loved it. I loved the dynamic. I thought it was informative. And why not? Why not patent the game for one of the greats? You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Let's do that.
Hashtag DD Young Ryan. If you got
Young Ryan, let's go.
Let us know. Comments, Twitter. I'm at G27status. At Lord Cognito is Cog. And at DMC Ryan is Ryan McCaffrey. Let us three know you got to the end of this show. You'll probably confuse Ryan in the process. That's okay. We can explain that to him separately. But we thank you all so much for tuning in. And again, thank you for all the write-ins that we got. I cannot stress enough how immense it is. That's not to put pressure on our audience. Just thank you. I really do appreciate it. It makes those write-ups much easier because, again, I really shape the show and the conversations we're going to have around what it seems like you folks are interested in.
Fantastic job. Fantastic job. You don't get enough credit for that. And I'm glad one of the write-ins actually said that because I love it. It's very balanced. You hit all different, so you have fun with it, and then you also hit a lot of core topics too.
I put a lot of time into it, so I'm glad. Yes. Even if people quietly appreciate it, that's fine. I don't, require people to gas me up. I appreciate it if they do, but I thank you for saying that, and thank you to those who write in with kind words. But yeah, I try to put a lot of time into this show to make it as good as possible.
Fantastic job, brother.
And with that, this has been episode 41 of Defining Duke. We'll see you all next week. Take decent care of yourselves until then, and take care. Goodbye.
Peace.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the United States of America. The show is conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Matty's co-host is Barry Lord Cognito Eversley. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level on Patreon, and we're thankful for your kindness and generosity.